First, will come Linda Howe in moments. Linda is the world's acknowledged expert on crop circles, animal mutilations. She's been doing a lot of work lately on Bigfoot. And I would advise you to get out your recorder. I have done that. The infamous Bigfoot scream. The one that curls my hair. I'm telling you, I don't have a lot of hair here to curl. But it does a job on me. She's going to have that today along with another Bigfoot story, I think because of a fax that I forwarded to Linda last week. So that's going to be very interesting. Then along comes Frank Joseph, who has, in Wisconsin. Together, we are going to explore that. Because I always thought Atlantis was somewhere out in the Atlantic and sunk. And so anyway, that'll be a lot of fun. And that's coming up here in just a very few moments. First of all, I would like to welcome new affiliates. Dreamland, now, by the way, at 151 affiliates. Growing like an out-of-control weed. I don't know if that's a good analogy. Anyway, WMBH in Joplin, Missouri. Welcome to the program. They're 1450 on the dial in Joplin. And another Missouri affiliate. That is KJCFAM in Festus, Missouri. Festus, Missouri. 1400 on the dial in Festus. I said bringing us now to 151 affiliates for Dreamland. Wow. Now, I got a letter here asking, please, begging me to tell you what sort of software right now. Begin calling now and keep calling until you get through, because tomorrow is the deadline. This is the weekend. The number is 1-800-522-8863. The Bible of radio, as far as I'm concerned, and every electronic goodie you've ever wanted in your whole life. 1-800-522-8863. Now, all the way to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Linda Howe. Hello.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
Well, since I did that Bigfoot story with the audio tape of the eerie screams recorded near Snohomish, Washington in the 1970s, I have received several more encounter reports, including your fax last week. And I want to share excerpts from two of them tonight, along with a replay of that Bigfoot scream. The first story is from Ted Fraley of Carson City, Nevada, who has been haunted by an encounter he had while deer hunting with a friend 35 miles east of Redding, California in the fall of 1956. He said it is, in his memory, etched as if it happened yesterday. It frightened him so much. It was around 10 p.m., and the two men were shining flashlights around to see.
And right to the back of the meadow, I would say this had to be about 60 yards or so across the meadow, back into the bushes. My light fell on the strangest set of incandescent eyes that I've ever seen. These eyes were almost like they had lights behind them. They were grayish blue in color, and they were very, very bright. They weren't like a deer. They certainly weren't any bear. They certainly weren't a mountain lion. They were like none I've ever seen before. And Richard saw them right away, and he says, "What in the hell is that?" He says, "I don't know. You think I ought to shoot it? We'll find out. I mean, maybe it's a huge mountain lion." And I said, "No, that can't be a mountain lion. It just isn't. They don't reflect like that." Richard says, "Plug it." Well, I'm ashamed to say that that's exactly what I did. I got out of the truck. Of course, the engine was off. We had both the spotlights on this thing. The eyes weren't moving. They were looking right at us. And I leveled that 30-30 Winchester across the hood, and I squeezed off around, aiming just a little bit above the eyes, but right between the eyes. And I squeezed off around. And the woods came alive. I've never heard a scream. That tape recording that you played on Art Bell that night was very, very similar. Art said it made the hair stand up on the back of his head when he heard it. But in real life, only 60 yards from this thing, incidentally, the bushes were just flailing. The bushes were totally moving. I couldn't see what was bouncing around in there, but the scream started at a low ebb, got higher and higher and higher, and I swear the trees vibrated. The decibel range was so high, it was totally incredible. I looked over at Richard. He looked at me. The first and last time in my life that I've ever seen a man's hair stand straight up on end.
You got it. Oh,
Well, that's not the end. More recently, in July 1989, Skip Hornbach of Seattle was visiting a mining claim near Darrington, Washington, a logging town in the foothills of the North Cascade Mountain Range, and he heard sounds that he said were like somebody pounding with a hammer, like building something in the forest, and then something came down from the mountain.
Fell off an 80-foot cliff down through the trees, busting branches on its way, hit the ground, fell on a pile of granite boulders that were covered with, I'd say, a 2-inch layer of moss, bounced off those boulders and rolled 150 feet down a hillside and landed at my feet. It was just laying there in a heap. And all I had with me was a .22 caliber pistol.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am on a hillside with a bear laying there dead on the ground or unconscious on the ground, and I'm wondering what I'm going to do next.
Right.
If I'm going to die, if I'm going to be mauled to where I can't make it back to the car. And while all these things are going through my head and I'm making amends with my maker, the thing starts to move. And then I'm forced into a decision of what to do next. Trying to stay rational, I decided the best move I could make would be to fire a shot over its head. Hopefully that would scare it. And in the instant that it ran one way, I would run downhill and escape it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't work that way. When I fired the shot over its head, it was almost completely vertical. What I saw happen there was I saw a hand go out from its left side. It rolled kind of slightly onto its right side as that hand came out. Then it rolled over to its left side a little bit, put another hand out to its other side, and it stood up vertically, just like a man would do in a helping manner from a laying down position, kind of like a push-up almost. Stood straight up, turned around, it had its back toward me this whole time, turned around, looked me straight in the eye, then turned back around after the shot went off and walked down the trail away from me, like I wasn't even there.
Good heavens. What exactly did you see when it turned around?
What I saw, and here's the part that really has me concerned. This creature, when it rolled onto its left side and put its arm out, now I was seeing the right side of the back of its head. I could have swore that I heard like a servo-type whine. Do you know what that sounds like? That kind of sounds that a servo makes that's actuating an electric device.
Right.
I could have swore that I saw or heard that sound and that I saw a silver cone come out of the side of that thing's head. But now, there's the problem. I can't remember if that was actually on the hillside or if that was one of the dreams that I had, because I had nightmares for 3 years over this thing. And anyway, to finish the story, it got up, walked away.
Wait, what did you see when it turned around?
Oh, when it turned around, okay, I'll give you a full description of the creature. From the backside, the hair on the back of its head grew into a tapered cape down to about the middle of its back. And I would say that that hair looked to be about 24 inches long, and it of course grew from different areas down its neck, but it was 24 inches long as it grew down.
What color?
Completely dark, shiny black. It looked synthetic to me when I first saw it. Over the rest of its body, the hair was about 3 inches long. Its face was completely hair-covered except for the area right around its eyes, and the area on the bridge of its nose had a little bit of skin showing, and that skin was kind of a ruddy brown pine cone color. And it had very deep wrinkles under its eyes and across the bridge of its nose, quite a bit like some of the orangutans or the apes, the bigger apes.
What about the eyes?
Its eyes were very deep set and there's just like coal black marbles in its head. Very deep, dark, and sinister looking, I guess you'd say. Anyway, it walked out of sight, and I was standing there thinking, well, I'm no better off now, even though it's gone, because the only way I know off of this mountain is the way it went, which means I'm going to have to go that way also. And I walked down the trail in the direction that it had left, and now it was about 5 minutes after I had seen this thing. And as I got farther down the trail, I was breathing a sigh of relief because I figured, well, it's gone. There's no sign of it here anywhere. I just turned around and looked, and I saw it break over the crest of the hill and run toward me. Man, came down at about a 45-degree angle on the hillside toward me and ran as fast as it could through those bushes. I saw trees pushed aside. I saw trees float in the air. I saw rocks fly in my direction. Moss, sticks, twigs, everything seemed to be floating in the air behind me as this thing came towards me. And I ran with every inch of my life down that hillside. I slipped, slid down on a fairly flat, sloped rock, went down underneath the vegetation and down into a clay-type pit, small cave-type thing in the ground. By the time I climbed back out of the inside of that, through a small opening in the underbrush, I looked behind me, and I could still see the trees moving along the hillside as this thing ran back and forth in a zigzag pattern along the hillside looking for me.
Well, he managed to get away, but he's gone back repeatedly to check the site and has told me in a fax today that he has found huge footprints in the area and grass mats inside the mine tunnels, suggesting that whatever the Bigfoot was, it's still there somewhere, Art.
There's something to this. Linda, I've got to tell you, I did a really, really neat show Friday night, Saturday morning with Brad Steiger.
Right.
The subject of Bigfoot came up. Brad Steiger actually had some, what he regarded as Bigfoot hair, actual samples, physical samples. So I may need to put you in touch with Brad Steiger.
Yeah, because there is a man in a university who could help us analyze that. That would be very interesting to do and then report on Dreamland.
All right. Well, you gave us a couple of real hair curlers there, and that sounds, Linda. You know, there are a few things in your life that affect you that stay with you.
That's right.
And that sound is one of them. It curls my hair. It truly, truly curls my hair. Yeah. All right, Linda, look, we're way short on time here, so give us your address, your 800 number, that kind of stuff.
And I thank you and look forward to people writing me at Linda Howe, Post Office Box 538 in Huntingdon Valley, Pennsylvania. Zip code 19006, Post Office Box 538, Huntingdon, spelled Hunting, D like Dreamland, O-N, Valley, PA, zip code 19006, and the toll-free 800 number for information about the books and videos that I have produced is 800-707-9993. That's 800-707-9993.
All right. Linda, that was a wonderful report. I'm so glad I got it on tape. I'm going to do a Halloween show.
Okay.
And when I do, I may replay those stories. God,
okay.
They're great. All right, Linda, thank you.
And thank you, Art. See you next week.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, that's Linda Howe, generally acknowledged to be the world's expert on crop circles, animal mutilations, and now seriously investigating Bigfoot. I never in my life will forget that scream. Anybody who's ever heard it, I don't know about you. North American Trading, for quite some time on this program, has been saying the currency was going to change. Well, voila, the currency is changing. Now, they announced in the little blurb they sent me that somehow the Treasury Department has said they're not going to collect the old currency. What, Linda, I don't think I'd have taken a 30-30 shot at Bigfoot. That was a classic story. And that, God, that's real. I tell you, I deal in this kind of material, you know, all the time, and that scream sets me on edge. There's something about the frequency and the shrillness of it that is so anti-human. Anyway, in a moment, Frank Joseph coming up. A couple of things for you first. So much to do. Laprina is, well, let's see, aspirin is good. I take aspirin. I'm able to take aspirin, and I take Anacin. That's no free commercial for Anacin. It's just the truth. You know, if I've got a headache, it works. In fact, I prefer aspirin as a painkiller to the stuff that cautions you not to drive while you're on it. For me, aspirin works very well, and for most humans it does. Why nobody has ever thought of this before is totally beyond me. It's Laprina, and a lot of people can't take aspirin. Sometimes it'll even give me kind of a burning feeling in my belly. And so imagine this, aspirin in a spray can. Now think about that. Doesn't that make sense? If you've got a sore knee, a sore shoulder, a sore back, the way I do so many times, instead of taking pills, which are slower acting anyway, Laprina, kind of like the nicotine patch that goes on your arm, Laprina sprays on and goes directly, is absorbed into your skin and goes to the exact area that you want to affect. It's an incredible idea, and to me it is incredible that nobody thought of it till right now. So, to order Laprina and Frank Joseph, after completing studies at Southern Illinois University School of Journalism, Frank Joseph was a staff reporter for the Chicago area periodicals, like the Winnetka paper. He also has been a featured writer and book reviewer for several national publications, including Fate, Aviation Heritage, Pilot Careers, and so forth. Today, he is editor-in-chief of the Ancient American, a 4-color, bi-monthly magazine of alternative archaeology. He is a member of the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago, as well as the Ancient Earthworks Society of the University of Wisconsin at Madison. While traveling in Africa, Europe, Central, and South America, following clues to lost civilizations, he co-authored Destruction of Atlantis, Adam's Press, Sacred Sites, The Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake, and Atlantis in Wisconsin. Both with, I believe it's Gulf Press in Minnesota. A veteran scuba diver, Frank Joseph is a frequent guest lecturer throughout the Midwest. We've got him here tonight. And I've got his book. And let me read you, just before we go to him, Gunnar Thompson, a Ph.D. at the University of Hawaii, wrote of the book, Frank Joseph makes a strong case for the existence of an ancient memorial center now submerged beneath Rock Lake, Wisconsin. His fascinating investigation into the long history of the mysterious rock pyramids beneath the waves, the predictable bungling by so-called academic experts, and recent discoveries by scuba divers make for an exciting voyage into America's pre-Columbian heritage. So with that in mind, away we go to Frank Joseph. Frank, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be on.
Where are you, Frank?
Well, I'm speaking to you from St. Paul, Minnesota.
St. Paul. Excellent. Well, all right. This is one that I'm not very familiar with. Atlantis, I always thought, somehow in the back of my mind, maybe this is just ridiculous, but I'd always thought it was somewhere between America and Africa or something and sank into the Atlantic Ocean. Is that the traditional story regarding Atlantis?
It's a traditional story, and it is the correct one.
Oh.
The idea behind the title for my book, Atlantis in Wisconsin, is to show that not the city of Atlantis was located there, but that the Atlanteans, in fact, came to American shores and specifically used a spot in Wisconsin, which I'll talk about later, as a very important part of the copper trade, or the Bronze Age. The actual city of Atlantis itself, all indications show that it was a very great and splendid and powerful city located about 200 miles due west of the Straits of Gibraltar.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a continent. It was a large-size island, which over time sank. And in its final destruction was a very violent volcanic eruption, which destroyed the island totally and sank the island. That is what I believe Atlantis really was.
Okay, before we leave the original Atlantis, I really would like to know something about it. I always thought, sorry, Frank, that Atlantis was mythology, was not real. What evidence is there to indicate Atlantis even ever really was?
Well, that is a very excellent question. It is like trying to prove a murder case without the body. You've got a lot of circumstantial evidence, but the body is missing.
So, in other words, if Atlantis were in front of Judge Ito, it would walk.
Well, I guess you could say that. That's a very excellent analogy. I hope to steal that from you and use that in the future.
You have my permission.
Yeah, I think Atlantis will be around and remembered long after all that nonsense. But no, as far as the evidence is concerned, trying to explain that or prove that, even on a wonderful radio show like this, is like trying to build a battleship between sunrise and sunset. But there are some things that I think I can provide. One of the things that I think is particularly interesting is that the date associated for the destruction of Atlantis, the true and proper date after the Greek figures have been scaled down correctly, is about 1200 BC. And 1200 BC is a very pivotal time in ancient history, because up until that time there was something known as the Bronze Age. It was filled with great civilizations in Turkey, like the Hittite civilization. The Mycenaean Greeks, Homer's Greeks, were strong. Troy was a major city. Egypt was at its height under Ramses III. And after 1200 BC, all those civilizations were shattered, and Egypt had gone in decline. What is interesting about that time also is that we know that there was a major volcanic eruption at that time. And it appears that this coincides directly with what Plato told us about, that the Atlantis was destroyed in 1198 BC. That is the final destruction for the island and city of Atlantis. And I think that is, from that point on, we can move to some wonderful particulars.
All right. Before we do, though, there is a most unusual amount of volcanism going on right now, Frank. And I think you're going to make the case for lost civilizations, ones that may have disappeared because of volcanism. And I don't want to scare anybody, but we've got volcanoes going off all the way around the Ring of Fire right now, including, well, I'm not even going to bother going through the list. It's almost all the way around the Ring of Fire. Frank, are we going through some sort of repeat cycle? And if so, are we at a worrisome moment in it?
I would definitely say we are, and this fits in directly with what we're talking about in Atlantis, because we are told through all of the traditions, which I've been collecting now since 1980, and the readings of Edgar Cayce, which have proved to be incredibly correct, show that the Atlanteans reached a high level of civilization and technology, but that they abused that technology. They interfered with the forces of nature, upset those forces, and precipitated their own destruction. I see the great parallel taking place now. The Atlanteans were not just somebody located on an island. They were a worldwide civilization. They were the first worldwide civilization, and now that is pretty much what we are becoming.
So then their worldwide presence meant that there was a worldwide erasure.
There was a worldwide catastrophe. There was almost a total erasure, but it has seared its way into the folk consciousness of dozens of people around the world who are by no means connected with each other, who tell the same story of a great flood from which their ancestors arrived to recreate civilization on foreign shores after most of the original people were destroyed in a horrible cataclysm of fire and water. And I think this is the great lesson of Atlantis. Not that it is just interesting historically,
right?
But that it is a parallel for our time.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. Now, you mentioned Edgar Cayce. Do you know the name Gordon Michael Scallion?
I certainly do.
To me, he is the modern-day Edgar Cayce, and if there is a real McCoy, Gordon Michael is the living entity.
Well, I don't see how people can really disagree, I think, fundamentally with him, because the things that he's already said have come true.
I know.
And he's different than Casey in that he doesn't, he's not transmedium to the extent that Casey was, that Mr. Scallion is also a highly educated man. He's able to watch the patterns, whereas Edgar Cayce was actually a very unsophisticated man, came from the hills of Kentucky originally, and was a very pure-hearted and very decent man, and the things that he spoke were true channeling, I feel. One of the few true channels that have ever existed.
All right, hold tight for just a second, Frank, and we'll be right back to you. I want to read this to my Dreamland audience because I believe I owe it to you. Gordon Michael Scallion was on my program. And I find I've, of course, invited him back, and I spoke with his office last week, and I got a fax from Gordon Michael Scallion, and I find it very chilling. I would like to simply read it to you as it is, and you can make of it what you want. It's short. Dear Art, as you might imagine, with all that's going on in the, quote, ring, end quote, I've been swamped. I did want to get back to you, and thank you for the offer to be on Coast to Coast again. At the present time, my guidance tells me, wait. I realize how difficult it is with so much going on and so many people wanting to know what's next. However, following my guidance is what allows me to receive prophetic information, and I must trust my inner source. I have no new information to share at this time, and my prophecies for 1995 continue to stand as presented in the January issue of ECR and your program. Should I receive any updates that could save lives, I will notify all media sources who can reach those in areas that may be affected, which, of course, would include your program. Blessings, Gordon Michael Scallion. In a moment.
95 in the 702 area code. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Now again, here I am. By the way, I meant to mention in my new book, The Art of Talk, there are a couple of the very best of Linda Howe's photographs of crop circles. Very, very good. The whole book is full of photographs. It's not a photo essay, but it is. There are a lot of photographs in there, and you're going to love them. Very clear, very well done. This book has truly, truly exceeded my expectations, and I'm very excited to have it in my hand. I have my own problem. I pay for books, too. And I just had to order 20 more myself. This is on top of the 40 books that I got to start with. Everybody I know, and You Must Stop is coming to me. I can't afford it to get a copy of the book. If you want a first edition copy, they're waiting. They're going to be gone. The deadline's Wednesday at midnight. You can order right now, but you dare not wait. The number to order The Art of Talk is 1-800-864-7991. It's open right now, 1-800-864-7991. Now, we blew the trunk lines out in Fortuna, California for the second time this weekend. If you want the free catalog, almost book from C. Crane Company, the catalog, the Bible of radio, I call it, you call right now and before tomorrow, or you'll miss out. 1-800-522-8863. 1-800-522-8863. NBC reported over the weekend that there have been long-distance trunking problems to the West Coast, and I'm afraid we may have been the ones. Now, one more item, GMX. It is magnetic water conditioning. It removes scaling from your pipes that otherwise will build in your system, kind of like cholesterol in your veins, eventually bringing on not the doctor but the plumber. It'll coat your water heater. It'll make white spots when you wash your car. It's terrible. You can truly get rid of it with GMX. I've got it here at the house. It works. Simple as that. It works.
This will tell us, and the anthropologists will tell us, that the only people living in the upper Great Lakes were what they call Paleo-Indians or Archeo-Indians, and not even many of those. These were people of an unsophisticated level. They were hunter-gatherers, and their interest in copper was of only a decorative nature. They used to pick up what is known as float copper, pieces of copper left behind by the glacier.
Right.
But the mining that took place abruptly, there is no indication that the mining, which is still intact, by the way, it is still there. You can visit it on Isle Royale, which is this large island in Lake Superior, which is not often visited because it's hard to reach. But the ancient mining is still there, and their ancient tools are still there. Upwards of more than 1 million hammerstones, beautifully made hammerstones, have already been found. Many more than 1 million.
All right, what do we know about the technology, or what can we surmise about the technology that would have been required to remove that volume of copper?
Well, I'll give you an idea. It is known that the technology that was used to remove that copper, for example, like digging down 60 feet through solid rock, was not obtained until the 18th century. Now, to answer your question earlier, why would they remove this copper?
Yes.
Well, in order for you to make bronze, you have to have copper. Not only ordinary copper, high-grade copper. And with that copper, you combine it with zinc and tin in a skillful way, and you create bronze. Now, what does that mean? Bronze means that if you have a sword made of bronze, you have a superior weapons technology that will beat anything else of your opponents. Now, while this mining was going on, 3000 BC to 1200 BC in America, all this huge amount of copper which disappeared, the Bronze Age simultaneously began in Europe. And there are no large natural copper deposits in Europe. There are a few, very few, and not enough ever to supply the prodigious amounts of copper that were used and needed by all the civilizations of the ancient world. And the mining in America stopped at precisely the same time that the Bronze Age ended in Europe. In between, Plato tells us that this great metalworking, seafaring civilization of Atlantis was destroyed 1200 BC. So here we have this one date defining 3 major events. The end of the copper mining working in America, the end of the Bronze Age in Europe, and the end of destruction, and the final destruction of Atlantis in the middle, which was the arbiter of this great copper mining enterprise.
What I'm curious about, again, though, is if this lost civilization was utterly destroyed, not just Atlantis, but what had sprung from it worldwide, why are you confident, or even hopeful, based on current conditions and predictions and all the rest of it, that we're going to come through whatever cycle appears prepared to repeat itself somewhat intact?
Well, I just have this dumb faith in mankind, I suppose.
I was hoping for more.
We just survived it on it. But I should mention, though, correct you there a little bit, although Atlantis itself was totally annihilated and may or may not be found as our own technology develops, the civilizations that it left behind in other parts of the world are certainly intact, and their ruins definitely exist and can be pointed to as identifiably Atlantean. So the evidence is really quite strong. I don't mean to say that it is only circumstantial. There is plenty of hard physical evidence that we don't have a street sign.
Okay, well, let me deal with that hypothesis. That Atlantis itself was destroyed, but a lot of what spread from it prior to that destruction remained or
prior and after
survived. So then what happened to all those people? In other words, why are we not, or are we, their descendants?
Well, I think that in some degree we are. I think that some of their genes have survived all this time. The best example of that, I'd say, were the Basque people of the Pyrenees in Spain and France, who are a European people but speak a language which is not Indo-European, and who have traditions about their ancestors coming from what they call the Green Isle. The Green Island, or Green Isle, which was this beautiful, magnificent city on a green island far out in the Atlantic that was lost in a terrible storm at sea. And they preserved these stories and their own genetic heritage pretty well intact in the isolations of the Pyrenees Mountains.
All right. Earlier tonight, you heard the report very clearly, the chilling one from Linda Howe, about the Bigfoot. Or the creature, or whatever it is. We're just using words. Some unidentifiable creature. How do you deal with such stories? That and UFOs, and Does any of it fit into any of the ancient research that you have done, or do you think it might?
Oh, absolutely. I think it really does. The skeptical mindset that we've had for so long is now proving to be extremely narrow. People are afraid they're going to be gullible or something, but we have to. There's no such thing as scientific inquiry unless you keep an open mind and don't have a rush to judgment. As far as things like Bigfoot are concerned, yes, there are numerous traditions on both sides of the Atlantic about these giants, these people who were at a former time, and some of them had, in fact, had been enslaved to do menial work, and who had later come into severe conflict with the so-called civilized people. Who's to say that this isn't some kind of a remnant from that time? Mythological traditions are not fables. They're not stories. It's the only way that an unliterate people could preserve the things that were important to them from their past. So for us to dismiss these myths as just children's stories is doing a tremendous insult, I think, to the folk tradition. That myths are important and should be studied and maybe stripped away of some of their poetic elements. But going to the core of them, yes, we see there was an Atlantis, and there were strange things like, if you want to call it Bigfoot or whatever, we don't know the real names of what they were. The verdict isn't in on any of these things, to be sure.
Do you think that Atlantis will ever actually be rediscovered?
Yes, I am extremely confident that it shall.
Really?
Yes, because if we now possess the technology to find the Titanic and the Bismarck, surely we will be able to find the city lost in the sea. The trouble is, we have been looking in the wrong places. We've been looking in the Caribbean, which is actually not a wrong place. We'll find things there. We've been looking in the Aegean, and none of these places are where Plato told us it was. Plato states pretty accurately, pretty clearly, that it was not far outside the Straits of Gibraltar, which he called the Pillars of Hercules. And if you look there on the ocean floor, now that the ocean floor has been mapped pretty well, what do you find but in fact a sunken volcano in the Hirondelle Deep? It is on a spit of land underwater, not deep underwater either, about 200 feet down, called the Ampere Seamount. It's called this by the oceanographers who found it in 1949, that recently. And they determined, Dr. Maurice Ewing determined at that time that it was at one time a volcanic island which collapsed into the sea within the past 10,000 years geologically. Efforts to go out there, there's a very good chance we're going to find something that will be the greatest news story in all of archaeological history, that's for sure.
It would, and let's talk about that for a second. Let's say, for the sake of our discussion, that absolute evidence of such a prior civilization really is discovered.
Yes.
What sociological implications would that have, maybe even religious? It seems to me it would have many, and it would cause all of man to sit down and think really, really hard about what we're doing and about cycles and about what happened to them and what might happen to us. I mean, it would have such an impact.
I think it would have a very chilling and a very necessary effect, because here was a people who had it all. They had a worldwide powerful civilization. They had vanquished all their enemies. They were about becoming wealthier and wealthier, and they lost it all.
How much of a civilization did they have? I mean, deal with, I guess, the mythology of it, or what you can tell us from what we really know. What did they have? What did they
There are two excellent indications for that. One is from an ancient source, a wonderful Greek historian by the name of Hesiod, who lived about ecumenical council is a world council, and an ecumeny is a worldwide culture. Now, what do we find to back up that? Well, not too long ago, Professor Charles Hapgood, who was, until his death about 10 years ago, one of the leading cartographers of all modern times, discovered and dissected a map. And I'm not going to get into long parts of this, but this was an ancient map. And he found that this map had been preserved in Turkey. It's called the Piri-Reis map. And this map shows that somebody had tremendous geographical information about the coasts of America and even what Antarctica looks like underneath the ice 4,000 years before Christ. And the proof, which Dr. Hapgood came up with in his book called The Maps of the Ancient Sea Kingdom. That book's about 30 years old now, has never been disputed. It has been attacked and has never been disputed.
How accurate are the representations of that geography?
I think Dr. Hapgood makes an extremely convincing case. He writes for a general audience, but believe me, the academics were down on him viciously, but could not dismantle his evidence. He has been able to show that there were an overlay of these maps in this old Turkish map, which relied on maps from the Alexandrian Library, for example, from the time of the Ptolemaic time. And that relied on even earlier maps. And he was able to peel back all the evidence to show, yes, that there were, that's what he calls them, ancient sea kings, which coincides now with the Menominee Indian tradition of these sea peoples who came over here and stripped Mother Earth of her copper. And, of course, archaeologists will say, oh, modern man didn't have a ship that could cross the ocean like that. Well, that's a lot of nonsense. If ancient man could make the pyramid in Egypt, he certainly could make a boat that could go across the Atlantic Ocean. And I think that's what's happened. Now, see, that I think is a great realization now, is that it's a moral teaching, Atlantis. That is the greatest significance for humanity, is that it was a civilization that possessed great power. Because of their materialism and rampant greed, they lost it. And, it makes us look at our own world here.
Well, it does, and that's a good pause point. Hang on just a second, Frank. We'll be right back to you. Fortunately for humanity, we have none of that going on this Earth, so naturally we have nothing to worry about. Right? And maybe that's a perfect segue into North American trading. The inevitable question for Frank is one that before you ask it, I will. Frank, the audience is full of Christian folk Jews, every imaginable religions based on the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is, all have certain beliefs regarding how we got here. How do you reconcile those beliefs with your theories regarding ancient civilizations?
Well, I don't think there's any problem with that at all, because in the traditions of, you can go from Genesis, which talks about the flood and Noah,
yes.
And you go in the Quran, and the Quran talks about the land of Ad, A-D, and these were people who preceded all the great culture bearers of Arabia, and who in fact inherited a lot of their ideas and their civilization from the people of Ad, who had a great palace on an island which disappeared because its people had committed a great sin against Allah in a horrible flood. Like I mentioned earlier, you have this tradition amongst virtually every people on the face of the earth, and it seems to indicate, unless you're willing to totally dismiss this as some kind of impossible coincidence, that there was, in fact, a worldwide event, which I think, to answer your question, yes, it impacted the morality, the moral systems of every religion on the face of the earth. I think so, because there's always a moral question involved, isn't there? For example, Noah is singled out as the last of the generous men.
Yeah, let me stop you right there with Noah, because maybe you will have some comment on this. We're here at the bottom of the hour, but Frank, are you aware that there's satellite imagery now that has people up on the side of Mount Ararat digging archaeological digs, probably uncovering, I've heard odds 100,000 to 1 that it is anything but an artificial object. In other words, they think they may have found and are digging for Noah's Ark on the side of Mount Ararat right now. And I'd like your comments on that when we come back. So hang in there, Frank. You're listening to Dreamland. For a copy of this program, the Sea Crane Company weekend catalog is about to end tomorrow morning, so if you have not yet made it through to get that and throw away, folks, it's one you keep all year. You've got to get through it in 6-3. 1-800-522-8863. This Wednesday at midnight, that's it. They're changing the plate and going directly into the second printing, so enough said, I guess, except the number is 1-800-864-7991. 1-800-864-7991. Right now, or 24 hours a day until you can get through. Now, we're about to open the lines here, and I'm going to let you ask Frank Joseph anything you want. And I've got a couple of questions of my own. We'll get those, and then the phone numbers to get in on the show, because we're opening the lines now. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. The wild card lines, area code 702-727-1295. Toll free, it's west of the Rockies, it's 1-800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, it's 1-800-825-5033. Again, east of the Rockies, 1-800-825-5033. And now back to Frank Joseph. Frank, I had a question which I had asked you just prior to the break about Ararat and Noah's Ark.
Yes.
Do you know anything about that at all?
Yes, I have. I took particular interest in that, of course, as I have with all things regards to the world deluge, and try to explain it in my book as best I can. I don't believe that what they're finding there is, in fact, the Ark. I do believe that it is an artificial creation. It may, however, have tremendous significance for the Genesis story, and it appears to be, although it's still, a verdict is yet to come in, but it appears to be a monument to that flood, and a used monument, a kind of a temple or a memorial chapel, as it were.
It'd be kind of rough, though, wouldn't it, to build it that far up on Ararat?
Well, actually, yeah, that's true, but that's typical for places of great sanctity. I have to think about places like Delphi, which is way up in the mountains of Greece, or many of the Indian sanctuaries on the west coast, which are high up in the mountains for the Shoshone Indians. So in that regard, it would really be quite plausible. So I don't think I know for sure that it is not the Ark, but it tends the evidence so far tends to show that it, in fact, could be a memorial, a monument that was built to the Great Flood.
Perhaps you would think that it might be carrying some fair-haired, might have carried some fair-haired people.
Well, I don't want to emphasize that so much. I mean, from all indications are, especially in its last days, Atlantis was a truly multiracial, multinational society. It didn't begin that way, but it certainly ended up that way. Mm-hmm. The basic racial type for the Atlanteans seems to be, well, not commonly red hair of all things, and tall and slender. That's the general consensus from traditions on both sides of the Atlantic.
All right, let us take a few questions from the audience. How about that?
Be glad to.
You ready? East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph. Hello, where are you calling from,
I'm
please?
calling from Liberal, Kansas.
Liberal, Kansas. Hi.
Yes. Excuse me, Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Are you familiar? Excuse me. Are you familiar with any of the ruins in Florida and the pyramids? What's left of them in Florida?
Yes, I've been diving down there for some years, as a matter of fact, with William Donato, who's the head of the Atlantis organization in California, and he has led several expeditions down to the Bimini Wall, and I've been privileged to go along with him. And I've seen the wall myself. It's not a wall, actually, or a road, as it's referred to. It appears to be the remains of a breakwater or a harbor facility on the north end of the island of Bimini, which is 80 miles due east of Miami.
Well, help me out with her question. She asked you about pyramids in Florida. Now, I've never heard of any such thing. Pyramids in Florida?
Well, off the coast of Florida, there have been many sightings of what appears to be pyramidal-shaped buildings. I have not been able to verify that, but because of the subsistence problems in Florida, especially the coastal area, I don't see why that is an impossible find that's going to be made someday. The only pyramids underwater that I really know about are the ones that are in Wisconsin that I wrote about. And those structures we photographed and we have found, and I don't see why the same thing can't be done someday off the coast of Florida.
You have photographs of pyramids?
We have photographs of the stone remains of several of the structures that were found at the bottom of Rock Lake. They were made between 1989 and just 1993. And they show stone structures between 20 and 60 feet below the water.
Holy mackerel. I can see that your book is full of such photographs, as a matter of fact, isn't it?
Well, the Destruction of Atlantis is the first book I wrote, but the next one that carries those photographs is called The Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake.
Well, even I'm talking about Atlantis in Wisconsin.
Right, we have some shots there. There's one shot of a structure underwater on top of a hill. It's a ruined little pyramidal structure that we found only about 20 feet underwater.
Huh.
And to answer this lady's question, I think relates to it, is that there appears to be, and I don't know the mechanism for this, there appears to have been some kind of a worldwide shift or something that put structures like this, pyramids, underwater. There's a lake in Japan called Lake Biwa, which has pyramidal structures 20 feet below the water,
The Bimini Wall I mentioned is about 19 or 20 feet. The structures seen off the coast of Florida are supposed to be in shallow waters. So there's even a lake in Ireland, Loch Ness, which has pyramidal structures supposedly underwater. So there's something that took place, and I think we're finding the bits and pieces of it now.
All right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph and Art Bell. Hi.
Hello.
Turn your radio off first. That's number one. Always extinguish thy radio.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Joseph.
All right. Where are you?
Vancouver, Washington.
All right. Go.
I'm curious as far as his thoughts regarding the last ice age that disappeared about 12,000 years ago, as far as what his ideas are as for the cause. I've heard that, with Atlantis being in the Atlantic, that when it sank, it allowed the warmer currents from the Gulf and farther south to move up, therefore warming the North Atlantic waters and such, and I'd like to know his thoughts on that.
All right.
Well, that's an extremely interesting question. I agree with him. I think that that refers to one of the earlier sinkings of Atlantis. I should explain that Atlantis originally was a rather large, lengthy strip of land in the mid-Atlantic, and over time, portions of it sank, and only its final destruction was the really violent one in 1200 BC. But before that, there were various sinkings, and I think as some of that land was encroached upon by the sea, it indeed led up these warmer temperatures, which had tremendously important consequences climatically throughout the northern hemisphere. That's been really pretty well demonstrated now. There's, I think, a lot of evidence to show that, especially with the ice core drillings now. That's a way where you can determine former climates in the world by digging down through the ice and seeing ash layers and so on. You can tell what the climate was like 12 or 15,000 years ago. And I agree. I think that there was this major climatic change that took place.
Okay. What about the comet question? Now, a comet, supposedly, best theory, did in the dinosaurs.
Well, not a comet, I don't think they say, but they do say a large extraterrestrial piece of debris, whether an asteroid or so on.
Well,
that's an excellent question.
Doesn't matter. We'll talk rock here. Rock, snowball, whatever it is. Big. And there's been a lot of recent concern, and I've got an article in the other room that would curl your hair about a revisit of a comet we're going to have, which they're wondering the trajectory is within error limits of actually hitting Earth, and I'll be saying more about that. But the point is, over time immemorial, things have hit Earth, big things.
Yes.
And where does that fit into any of your theories?
Absolutely. And that is the mechanism that actually tripped off this major destruction. There is a tremendous couple of books written by two wonderful astronomers called Klube and Napier, and they have shown conclusively that the Earth passes through a meteor cloud usually in the November season every year. Now, there's hardly anything left of that meteor cloud now, so you'll see some nice meteor displays. It's dissipated over the course of thousands of years. But the last time there was a chance for a major impact was in the 13th century BC, right around there, they say, and that coincides perfectly with the destruction of Atlantis. I might say parenthetically here that the vast majority of these flood traditions that you get from around the world, and even in the Old Testament, in Revelations and John, this flood is related to a fire from heaven. It is called that over and over again. Even the myths and the legends associated with the great building of the Great Pyramid were that it was to be created against, as a refuge against a coming flood caused by, as described in the Arab traditions, a planet or a large object falling from space. So I believe that, in fact, was the mechanism, that the Earth passed through a large meteor cloud, and that the Earth was bombarded, not by just one meteor, but by quite a few, actually. The Earth was under a bombardment. And now celestial mechanics are being better understood. Even establishment astronomers are beginning to understand, yes, the world, our Earth, is subject to bombardments periodically by these meteor clouds, which are sometimes related to the passing of comets, like Enki is probably the comet that one of the comets that you might be talking about there.
Well, Professor Marsden, well-respected, I'll have to drag the newspaper article out and tell you which one I'm talking about, because I can't recall right now. But more and more mainstream astronomers are sort of issuing these warning bells.
That's correct.
And it's appearing in the press all the time lately about something hitting Earth.
Just look at the latest issue of Astronomy magazine.
Yes,
That's mainstream. And on the front cover,
it shows a painting, this horrendous painting of a meteor strike off the coast of New York. Now, something like that even 5 years ago, I would say even 2 years ago, would not have been discussed as something that's a lunatic fringe. But when that comet Shoemaker-Levy, crashed into Jupiter, and the astronomers got a good look at what could happen, it made their hair curl. Because if that happened to our world, well, I wouldn't be talking to you now.
No, you wouldn't.
And so if it could happen to Jupiter, it could certainly happen to Earth.
All right. First-time caller line. You're on the air with Frank Joseph and Art Bell. Hi.
Yeah, I've got some to look at. Last month's Popular Science magazine, it talks about the hurricanes.
Yes. Where are you, sir?
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle. All right.
It says that our government in Alaska is, we've built a machine, and we're testing it now, and we're manipulating the local weather.
Well, all right. You're talking about Project HARP.
Right.
All right. Frank, I don't know that you know anything about it, and as far as I know, the stated goals of Project HARP are not to manipulate the weather. They are to manipulate the ionosphere and to look for, interestingly, underground caverns and tunnels. That one really blew my mind. But there is a project in Alaska right now. I've seen the antenna arrays called Project HARP. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I have.
You know anything about it?
I think that far more mind-blowing than looking for caves is the manipulation of the ionosphere. Because the ionosphere, we are told, is being depleted by the worldwide pollution. Now, why is that important? The ionosphere is a blockage. It is a shield of defense against meteor falls, because many times a meteor, unless it hits the Earth, unless its trajectory is absolutely perfect, it's not going to hit the Earth. It's going to burn up in the atmosphere, and sometimes the atmosphere gets so thick in the ionosphere, it's supposed to be thick, that it will ricochet off, it'll bounce off. Now, if you get a depleted ionosphere, your shield gets weaker, and it's going to allow more of these large extraterrestrial debris to crash into the Earth. So if they're building a machine or instrument of some kind to strengthen the ionosphere, that means that somebody is concerned to keep out not only cosmic radiation, which it also does that, but it also has a tremendous effect in bouncing off these large meteor falls. And as a matter of fact, that is specifically mentioned in the latest issue of Astronomy magazine.
I'm not sure it will strengthen. Is that the stated goal? I know that they're going to transmit such high intensity RF radio frequency.
Incredible.
To heat the ionosphere.
Yeah.
Now, who knows whether that's going to strengthen it?
I would say the word heat is probably maybe a cover word, or not the correct word, to stimulate the ionosphere. Because heating it is not going to do much, but stimulating it, yes. And the way you stimulate it, well, it's an involved thing, but I can imagine that's extremely interesting you bring that up.
Well, the sun itself stimulates the ionosphere.
It does, but it is on the exterior. The ionosphere is extremely thick, and it varies across the planet. It can be over 145 miles thick at certain points, but we are undermining it from our side by all of our pollutants, and is being stimulated and helped by the sun. But we're like taking away the good work the sun does.
Well, a lot of people scoff at the reports of the thinned ozone, and I am not one of them. The scientific evidence gathered by our own satellites seems to be fairly comprehensive. Hold on a moment, Frank. We'll be right to you. Seems to be fairly comprehensive regarding the thinning of the ozone. And while I'm not a great believer in the warming theory, I have great doubts about that. I have not so many doubts about the thinning of the ozone. The ozone across North America, for example, over the last a decade or so, has thinned about 10%. There may be I have that wrong. It may be a longer period of time, but it's the last 40 or 50 years, certainly, has thinned about 10%. That has consequences we are already feeling. We'll be right back. We all know information is what it's all about. 800-830 CyberMed Software. And Frank, we've got time for one call, so let's take it. When we get back at the top of the hour, everybody should get a pencil and paper. We're going to tell them how they can get your books. I don't know how you write so many. I wrote one, and it almost killed me. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hello, sir. Where are you?
I'm calling from Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little state up here where it's cold and chilly.
All right. Turn your radio off.
Okay, hold on a sec here. There we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was, Mr. Bell, you have a really good show. I listen to you every week.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I get a kick out of some of this stuff. And I was wondering, sir,
sir, you still have your radio on. Please turn it off all the way.
Yes, it is off.
Okay.
It is. Trust me, I turned it off. I've been hearing a lot of things about UFO and UFO technology around the country, and I'm just curious if it actually is true or not.
All right. Well, I'm not sure how that question fits into anything you've been talking about. It does a little. So I'll just turn it around, I guess, and say, Frank, what is your belief regarding UFOs?
Well, how about if I turn around to Atlantis? That would be quite a trick, eh?
You twist it any way you want.
Okay, here it goes. Among the traditions, the peripheral traditions of Atlantis are that they had flying craft. This is first mentioned in Edgar Cayce, and it is the hardest pill for most Atlantis scholars to swallow. However, there are traditions amongst other peoples, especially the Hindu traditions, about what something they called vimanas. And the vimana is the word for a kind of a flying machine, which is not exactly like you see in our skies today, which harness the power of the earth, telluric power, to create a kind of levitating device. Now, whether you want to believe this or not, I'm not quite sure I do, but it's nonetheless associated, I think, with a high technology that perhaps got fantasized after a while. But the vimana nonetheless persists throughout Hindu literature, and there are even traditions in Peru. When I was in Peru last November, I heard some, which talked about how their ancestors, some of them, arrived from the Great Flood in flying craft, which they called Orichana, which means like the gold fire that flies through the sky. So take that for what you will. Maybe UFOs are man-made, or were, and they've been around longer than we might be led to believe.
Or maybe the ones that we experience today are ones that have always been around?
There's another story, too. Outside of Rock Lake, the place where I investigated, there is a large, was a large earthwork in the shape of a perfect cross, like a gun sight.
Yes.
And that no longer exists. That was wiped out. But interestingly enough, over that specific spot, there have been a rash of UFO sightings by people in Wisconsin, and they have said this is kind of curious. They have seen these craft. I haven't seen myself.
Frank, hold it. We'll get back to it. UFOs in Wisconsin as well as Atlantis, and we'll get back to all of this after the break. News, top of the hour. From the area near Dreamland, this is Dreamland.
Many exercise machines, such as stationary bicycles, have the user move against a variable resistance.
Other than the Boston Globe. So get ready for that. I know people think I'm off my nut a lot of times when I make comments about comets, but in addition to Hale-Bopp, there is Swift-Tuttle to be concerned about. And I'll tell you all about that in a moment. Absolutely fresh flowers I will tell you about right now. It is a flower farmer for astrophysics is predicting that comet Swift-Tuttle could strike the Earth in the year 2126. Interesting year. Such a collision, Brian Marsden says, could possibly produce a cataclysmic impact more powerful than the one many scientists think wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. He estimates, now you don't really have to worry here, he estimates the odds of such a strike at about 1 in 10,000, making it unlikely but certainly possible. And he goes on to say one of these passes, it will hit. Now, 1 in 10,000. You say, this is just for the one comet Swift-Tuttle. You might want to check into the odds of being hit by a truck, being struck by lightning, and a lot of other ways that one can demise. We're talking about here the demise of the entire human race, not one person. But if you want to talk about numbers, compare those numbers for that particular comet to the numbers of going in any one of many other ways. And I think you'll begin to follow me. And I thought that an interesting bit of documentation to back up what I was telling you a little bit earlier. All right, once again, the Sea Crane Company catalog drive underway. Last Chanceville here. Oh, here is Frank Joseph. And I've got something coming on immortality. A question. I've got another letter here from an immortal, somebody claiming to be immortal. And I think you're going to enjoy that. But right now, Frank Joseph, Frank, you have written a number of books, the latest of which is Atlantis in Wisconsin. Name the others, if you would, and then tell us how to get them.
Well, the two books that are available that are dealing with the subject we're discussing tonight are The Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake,
yes,
which discusses this ancient city at the bottom of a lake in Wisconsin that has been authenticated and found. It's the only book on that subject. And its companion volume is called Atlantis in Wisconsin. They are actually two volumes of the same thing. The first volume, the Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake, tells the Indian stories about the structures of the bottom of the lake, and it also follows along our adventure in finding these things, how we found them, and has photographs of them. Atlantis in Wisconsin, that deals with the implications of this site, with the question of Atlantis and how they brought the copper from Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, over to Europe. It describes how and when that was done. So what I'm doing is both books are sold together as a set over the radio. I'm going to do that here. I'm going to offer our listeners here a little bit of a discount. Individually, they have different prices. The Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake costs $10.95, and Atlantis in Wisconsin is $12.95. So I'm going to knock off $2 if they order both of them together.
All right.
And they can order those books in this special deal on this show only by calling 1-800-777-3454. And
when can they call? Can they call now?
They can call anytime. It's a toll-free 24-hour number.
1-800-777-3454. Is that right?
That's correct. And if they do call from the show, then we're going to give them a $2 discount if they buy a set.
All right.
And we send them a free catalog, too, of all of our other titles.
Oh, okay. Here's one to go along with what I just said. Art, I'm sure you must know or ought to know that the astronomers are only attempting to get us afraid of asteroids, etc., in preparation for the arrival of, is it Nibiru? Nibiru? Nibiru. This is, of course, an interpretation, but I'm sure the establishment wouldn't want you to proceed in this direction. I don't know what all that means.
Well.
But that is, what is, do you happen to know, Frank? Nibiru?
No, I have no idea. But to follow up on what you said earlier about the chances of a collision with the Earth, many of your listeners are probably familiar with something called Barringer Crater. It's called Meteor Crater out in the southwest. And it's about a mile across. It was caused by a meteor, which scientists, by the way, for almost 100 years denied was caused by a meteor. And the date for that was always very vague. They thought it would happen maybe 20 or 50 or 100,000 years ago. Well, most recent dating for that, through simple stratigraphy, has shown that impact, which took place, and you can visit Meteor Crater now in Barringer, was caused only 2,700 years ago. Now, that's not a very long time ago.
No, it's not.
And, especially geologic time, that's just as a wink of an eye. So, perhaps, to say that there have been no major collisions that have damaged or destroyed civilizations of the past is ridiculous, because if that happened today, I think the effects on the Southwest would be noticeable. It would be equivalent to a major nuclear event, actually.
All right, actually, this I've got quite a long letter, and I'm not going to read it, from somebody who claims to be an immortal. I'll hold this for Coast on my regular syndicated program, so I'll let everybody look forward to that. In the meantime, though, I have had a number of people, one on the radio, who claimed to be immortal, Frank.
Yeah.
I've had a number of faxes from people who claim to be immortal.
That sounds pretty awful, actually.
I know. I've thought the same thing myself.
Saint Germain, as he written in, but the soul is certainly immortal. Our bodies are kind of unimportant.
I'm afraid these people claim physical or near physical immortality. Now, for example, in the letter I've got here, they claim, well, yes, we can be so scattered or heads can be taken off, and in that case we're not immortal, but barring cataclysmic physical failure due to whatever cause, they are immortal. Now, I would think that such people are not truly immortal in the sense that they would not have made it through the kind of cataclysmic earth changes you and others have talked about.
Well, immortality is not the word that springs to mind to describe these people, quite honestly. So I really can't comment on that. I'm not even particularly...
Would you be thinking more along the lines of vampirism, that sort of thing?
Well, no, I don't subscribe to any of those things, I'm afraid. My open-mindedness has certain limitations, I suppose, in a rational world,
I hear you.
There can be psychological disorders. People can go through things like that. It can be explained in that way, I suppose, in terms of psychology, but I'm afraid I'm not too...
Well, the interesting aspect, of course, of anybody who would actually be immortal would be they might be able to give you some insights into the...
Well, I would love to sit down with an immortal, and they can tell me all... They can update my books on Atlantis
and show me where I can find the place.
That was exactly where I was going with that.
Well, actually, we don't need them, though, actually, because we are bending our efforts very seriously to find the remains of this previous civilization. We've done a lot of hard work already in the Caribbean on Bimini. We're going to hopefully expand our research in the future to go and investigate the Ampere Seamount that I mentioned earlier, that sunken volcanic island off the shores of North Africa, about 200 miles west of Gibraltar. And we're doing some serious hard work. It's not just theorizing, and that's what I've tried very hard to put into my books, to make Atlantis come alive for people that read about it. Not just facts, and it's not just a scholastic attempt or some wacko story. I've tried to assemble the material in the most credible and dramatic form, and that's why I'm anxious to share it with people and get their reaction from it, to show me where I'm wrong and correct it, or to point me in the right direction.
All right. People do that to me all the time. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph. Hello.
Oh, hi, Art. I'm really enjoying Frank's show. Now, do you think any of the major earthquakes, Frank, lately were caused by a man-made device like HARP? And
well, okay, ma'am, I think...
How would that work, like in Mexico
okay,
and Virgin Islands? I'd like an answer.
All right, we'll see what we can do. HARP has not been activated yet, to the best of my knowledge, so I doubt it's responsible. However, the French have been detonating nuclear weapons not far from Tahiti in the South Pacific.
It's abominable. Just an absolute obscenity. Can you imagine going to these... Well, the United States has done just as bad things, actually. There's an island called the Island of the Gods. That's what the Hawaiians call it. It's a beautiful island off the coast of the main island. And the United States Air Force has been carrying regular bombing missions on that, training missions on that island for the past 10 or 15 years. You know, and I think that... I don't know. I can't see bombing something called the Island of the Gods in this paradise setting is something that's very good. And especially, you mentioned earlier, the Ring of Fire. I mean, here we're setting off, the French are setting off these major nuclear devices.
I know.
I think it's incredible. We're playing with geologic forces of which we know very little, virtually nothing. And for us to assume that there's going to be no impact, and like the lady mentioned, we had this major earthquake in Mexico. Now, I'm not saying there's a connection, but maybe there is. And I don't think that it's wise. I mean, we've had the atom bomb for 50 years, more than that now.
Yeah, 7.6 on the Richter scale. That is a very serious earthquake.
It's a very serious earthquake.
And it is one of a major series. And here we've got volcanoes going off. And I am not a rocket scientist, but I do imagine there's a possibility. I wouldn't call it playing. You detonate nuclear devices under the water. You're not playing. You're doing something fairly...
And we're not talking about one. We're talking about a series of 8 major devices set off in a seismically active zone. Now, I mean, common sense would tell me there's going to be repercussions to that, to say nothing of the marine life destroyed, the ecological obscenity that takes place. We're doing precisely the same things that the Atlanteans did in their arrogance, thinking, oh, we can do anything we want, we can show off our power. And what happened is the Earth rebelled. The Earth rebelled and destroyed the Atlanteans, tore down their civilization, wiped most of them out, so that they are only a mythological memory now. And that is going to happen to us unless we learn from that historical parallel. That's what I try to push harder in my work than anything else.
So either straighten out our act, or we will one day be a mythological memory.
You got it. That's it. People 5,000 years from now are saying, oh, America and Europe, oh, those are just myths. You know, there's going to be, just because we have refrigerators and airplanes, believe me, is no claim on immortality.
Maybe there won't even be the Empire State Building sticking up out of the sand and water washing ashore as in that movie once. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph and Art Bell. Hi.
Hi, I'm calling from Palm Springs.
Yes.
Yes. Some time ago, I read a book. It's an older book by Charles Berlitz. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, sure. Charles has done wonderful work.
Yes, and there were some amazing photographs in that book, underwater photographs.
Yes.
I'm not sure where they were taken. I think they were in the Mediterranean. I'm not sure, the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah, it's the island that I mentioned earlier. It's called Bimini.
Oh, right. Okay.
They're 80 miles off the coast of Miami, as a matter of fact. And, he reproduced some wonderful photographs in there of the so-called road or wall.
Yeah, and it was just these huge monolithic blocks of stone that were just set so tightly, you know, to the blade of a knife couldn't fit through them.
Right. There are new finds being made down there all the time. The last expedition that went down there found pieces of granite. Now, that's interesting because granite does not appear in that part of the Caribbean. The nearest granite would be South Carolina. So, obviously, the thing is made and fitted together. It also terminates in a J form. which fits perfectly into a kind of a refuge for sailing ships. The Bimini Wall is also located in the exact spot where the Canary Island Current, which sweeps across from North Africa and straight across the ocean, turns. So that if you were going to go back, say, from Europe, you would ride that current, follow it up the East Coast, and go back to Europe. And that spot is right where that turn is made. It'd be your last possible landfall.
Right.
So it makes a great deal of sense. And that, of course, archaeologists, they're not willing to rewrite their textbooks. And
I wonder, is there any connection with, the Bermuda Triangle and the supposedly, some people say there's some sort of an energy source that...
It is true. All right, thank you, ma'am. Very good question. Actually, considering the area and the Bermuda Triangle and all the weird things that have occurred, could there be a connection?
Yes, there definitely is, and I think that it was pretty well shown what it is. It is part of the Atlantean story because in the area of the Bermuda Triangle there are two what is known as deep sea holes.
Wait a minute, Frank. This is a great hook.
Okay.
Stay right there. We've got to break the Bermuda Triangle, a connection. Stay where you are. Read my book with incredible. All right. Now back to the subject of the Bermuda Triangle. You say there is a connection to what's below the water, and
right, there definitely is, and the phenomenon that has been taking place in the Bermuda Triangle is definite. It's real. It's too long for me to go into at this point, but still the things the audience has heard about it are a legitimate phenomena. I've known people that have lived there, that have worked there. It's real. What is causing it? Two deep sea holes were found there and written about in one of the best books on Atlantis. It's called The Secret of Atlantis by Otto Muck. And Otto Muck was a German rocket scientist, one of the leading physicists, as a matter of fact, in the 1940s and 50s. Well, anyway, he wrote a book called The Secret of Atlantis, and he identified these two deep-sea holes, which are pretty much in the general vicinity of the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, that were caused by an asteroid that split in two as it streaked over North America and buried itself 9 miles deep in the ocean floor. Now, those asteroids contain some of the largest concentration of pure nickel iron in the world, and that is what is probably causing the magnetic and other anomalies that are taking place there as it interfaces with the other geologic forces like seismic activity, telluric activity, working on nickel iron. Like when an earthquake is about to take place, all the pressure develops in the epicenter, and that is where the large deposits of nickel iron are.
All right. Frank, we've got to hold it there. You've heard of Comet Hale-Bopp? Oh, you haven't heard about Hale-Bopp, huh? We just got a report. We'll talk about it when we come back, that a large piece or chunk of Hale-Bopp has broken off. Fascinating. This is Dreamland. We'll be right back.
One 800-618-TALK. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1295. In the 702 area code. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Okay, here I am again. Frank Joseph is my guest, author of Atlantis in Wisconsin. We've been talking about so very much, and we'll get back to it in just a second, as well as that piece you separate from Comet Hale-Bopp. A couple of faxes, one of them very important. Dear Art, what have we missed? It's 11:30 here in Ohio, and our Indians have finally beat Seattle for a 3-2 game lead. After much extra inning chat, you're finally on the air. We need to know how to get your book. What is the 4-digit PIN number? Now, that's a little cryptic, but I know what it means, and it's bad news. You see, what happened is, in our newsletter, in my newsletter, they did a wonderful, wonderful ad for my new book, The Art of Talk. I mean, wonderful. It was beautiful. Only one minor problem with it. They put the wrong number in to order the book. So, my friend in Ohio, they put the wrong number. That is, disregard that number. There is only one number that you can call to get my book, and I'm going to give it to you right now. So write it down. And I want everybody to know that the number in the newsletter, I'm so sorry, is wrong. It was a comedy, a tragedy of errors, but it's wrong. And this person reminded me, because when you call the wrong number, you get a little thing that says, give us a 4-digit PIN number. So don't call that number. You'll go nuts. The only number to get the Art of Talk, and you better do it before Wednesday at midnight, otherwise you're not going to get a first edition. They're about gone. My publisher says it's going absolutely nuts. The only number is this one, 1-800-864-7991. You can call that right now or keep calling until you're able to get through. 1-800-864-7991. Now, I've got a fax for you, Frank, but,
okay.
But first, I really would like to, you hesitated or paused, Comet Hale-Bopp. Have you heard about it?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
All right. It is a newly discovered comet by two men, one named Hale, one named Bopp, amateur astronomers, which do discover comets more frequently than not.
Yes, they do.
When it's so bright out beyond the orbit of Jupiter, you may want to look into this, that at first they thought it might be as wide as 1,000 miles. It has a corona or a dust particle corona around it, 2.5 million kilometers wide. Later research has shown it, or they're guessing it now to be, about 100 miles in diameter. It will miss Earth by as much as 1.5 AU, which is quite a bit, but they're saying it will be probably the astronomical event of all time. A piece of it has just been seen to break off, which is 1/3 the brightness of the comet itself. Remarkable. And all of that is headed our way, not for a collision, I repeat, but headed in our direction. So there's a lot going on out there. Now, here's the facts. Edgar Casey said a main cause of the destruction of Atlantis was a disagreement over the semi-human life forms that they created. Did those creatures have souls? Could they be owned as property? It reminds me of the current question about whether or not life forms can be patented. He said, we have, in our society, a second chance to handle technology well rather than blow ourselves up. That's from Margaret in Bellevue, Washington. I've been interviewing people on nanotechnology, and they tell me, Frank, we're going to be able to create life eventually.
Well, of course, we're just beginning to have something called genetic engineering, aren't we? I mean, this is at the end of the 20th century, and if we're allowed to continue, I'm sure there's going to be just incredible advances to come. I don't think it's necessarily an evil or a wicked thing. It's just like any science. It's just like the Promethean fire that was given to us. It can either cook our food or it can burn our house, depending on how we're going to use it. So I don't think intrinsically it's an evil thing. It depends upon the human spirit behind it. Genetic engineering, I think, can be extremely good for regenerating new organs and extending life, not quite to the immortals, but certainly well beyond 100 years. So I think it's possible, and yes, there are indications that this technology was known a very, very long time ago. Like I said, our civilization was destroyed and it has been reinvented, and I think science is only just beginning to understand that. And the name of that civilization was Atlantis, and that's why it's seared itself into the subconscious of literally the world's population. I mean, you have this known around the world, and an event like this had to have been of great, great consequence. And what I've tried to do is to show how it reacted and worked right here, right in America, specifically in the Middle West, but impacted our country. And that's the twist I tried to put on it. I don't deal in general theories. I tried to show through documentation and clear logic as I possibly can. I've devoted my life to this. This is an obsession with me in a way. And I travel around the world. I try to look at things realistically. And I picked up the trail, and it leads right back to America. I think that's a wonderful historical parallel going on here. I mean, we're seeing Atlantis in America. It's not just in Wisconsin. And we've got to learn from it.
I want to ask a personal question. You said you're obsessed with it. I am an obsessive, compulsive type myself, Frank, so I understand that. Why are you obsessed with it?
Well, there's a lot of answers for that. I just think personally that it explains an awful lot. I think Atlantis is not just something in the past, which it explains and clarifies a lot of. It's a great comment, I think, on what we are now, and it illuminates the future. And we're living in a very, very tough age. We're standing on the edge of a precipice.
Oh, I know that.
And we can either leap off that precipice and fall to our utter destruction or fly.
I have used that exact same phrase. We stand on a precipice. I believe it to be true. Yeah. This is a special moment, a good time to be alive, and it may well be that everybody said that in their lifetime for as long as we've been walking around. but if I know anything, I know that we're at some kind of special moment.
It really appears to be that way, and I believe that many people feel the same as you, that there's a general sense that there is a great change coming, and we're going to have to meet that in a dignified and intelligent way, or just try to scramble for ourselves and commit the same mistakes over and over again. History does repeat itself, and the great tragedy is that we never learn from it. And hopefully that's why shows like yours and books like mine will try in a general sort of way to shift consciousness so that we can learn from it and see that these things did happen and can't happen again.
You know, Frank, if it depends on social trends, if it depends on the behavior, in other words, of mankind, in other words, which way off this precipice we're going to go, I'm sorry, but looking at current behavior, trends, from the nuclear detonations to whatever else you want to talk about, the crime, the blank, soulless stares of children who kill children and others, we're going off the wrong side.
Well, I think what it means, no, I don't think so. I think it means that, yes, there's a big purge coming. There is a big change. I don't think it's going to be achieved peacefully, no. And maybe not in our lifetimes, maybe. But I think this all indicates that, yes, there's going to be a great change, and we're going to wake up from it, those of us that survive.
You're an optimistic
There were the survivors
kind
of Atlantis, and now there's going to be the survivors of the 20th century.
You're an optimistic kind of guy, and I would never hold that against you. I wish I shared it.
Well.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph. Hi.
Yes, this is Austin.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fascinating guest. Wonderful. You should definitely have him back again.
Okay.
The question I had, first of all, is was Atlantis as technologically advanced as we are today? And when I say technology, they may have had a different type of technology, but as far as knowing about who we are and who the universe is.
Okay, we'll start with that, but I'd like to ask about space travel.
No, I don't believe they had space travel. I don't think there's any indication of that. I agree with this gentleman 100%. Yes, they had a technology that was at least the equal of ours and then more advanced in some ways, but it was of a different type of technology.
Right.
We have evolved electronic and atomic technology. I do not believe they had that to much of a degree, perhaps electronics to some small degree. But their science appears to have been based on a very close observation of natural forces, and that they used these natural forces coupled with their genius to achieve great scientific things. One of them, for example, the creation of the Great Pyramid. Now, I cannot get into that. That's a huge subject, but I believe, I'm not the only researcher who's done this, by the way. I can't claim that, but many researchers, I'm talking about like Fix and Bobal, have shown that the Great Pyramid was built by Atlanteans who had a superb technology that definitely shows in advance of our own, because the Great Pyramid cannot be duplicated by our technology. So yes, they did have a superior technology in some regards. It was also based, as Casey said, on the recognition of the ultimate power, which we don't have. The ultimate power is spiritual power, not atomic power, electronic power, and the Atlanteans harnessed that spiritual power somehow and put it towards material ends, and it was okay as far as it went, but when it was turned to greed, they destroyed themselves.
Well, fortunately, we don't have greed here on Earth now, so...
No. Well, that's part of the human condition. There's nothing even wrong with being greedy or materialistic. It's just as a matter of balance. How much of it? I mean, there's always going to be elements like... There's nothing wrong with materialism or owning things or wanting to be wealthy. That's all fine. But it's just as when those values predominate and become tyrannical over our civilization that society is doomed.
Well, so we don't have any of that, so we don't have any of that.
I didn't say we don't have any of it. It's just it's predominating now. We're going to have a kind of a cultural pole shift before we have the real thing.
Cultural pole shift. I'll remember that one. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Frank Joseph. Hi.
Hi.
Where are you?
Excuse me?
Where are you, sir?
San Diego.
San Diego. Well, you're on the air.
Yes, I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill with the eye represents?
Yeah, that is a Masonic symbol. That's the all-seeing eye of wisdom. But it's interesting that it's located at the top of the pyramid, isn't it? The apex. That's called the pyramidion. And that is like the all-seeing eye. So some people say the Masons have all these old traditions. I don't know. I'm not a Mason, but this is very possible. But that's a Masonic symbol, yes.
All right. Next question.
And what was the purpose of the creation of the pyramid?
All right.
The Great Pyramid in Egypt, you mean?
Any pyramid.
Well, not just any pyramid, because they differ. I will tell you about this. I've never mentioned this on the air yet in public. It's a new book that I'm writing. It will be coming out, and I will have it discussed there. but I believe that the creation of the Great Pyramid was not as a tomb. The creation of the Great Pyramid was, according to the Arabs, and I believe this, as a machine. It is a device that still operates, and I can demonstrate how. It is a device used to prevent seismic activity. It was built to prevent the destruction of Atlantis.
Are you familiar with Richard Hoagland?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with his theories with regard to tetrahedral physics?
Yes, that's right. I've studied his tapes and his books.
And you know the way he feels about the pyramids, and I think that he now carries a theory that parallels yours, that says that cataclysmic geologic activity can in fact be prevented by the use of pyramidal technology at the right points on Earth.
Absolutely correct. Let me just say this real quick. Most people don't realize that the Great Pyramid, the most massive building, most perfect building ever made on Earth, sits at the very center of the world's landmass. That means that if you took all the latitudinal and longitudinal lines, they would cross directly over the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid embodies all of the elements of the Earth, and it is used as a transducer. A transducer is a simple device reinvented in the last century to take mechanical power and transform it into electrical power. I believe that is what the Great Pyramid was built as a geologic transducer. The Atlanteans saw the tremendous catastrophe coming. They went to the very absolute center of the world's landmass and created the Great Pyramid as a transducer. I know it's a fantastic thing to talk about. The gentleman asked the question. I have to answer him as quickly and succinctly as I can.
Well, I appreciate your doing that first on my program, Frank. Hold on just a second. We'll be right back. This is Dreamland. Many of you health-conscious folks are familiar with antioxidants and their amazing health benefits. Now, vitamin C is probably the most famous of these. UCLA scientists found that antioxidant vitamin C can help avoid cancer, strokes, heart attacks, increase life expectancy an average of 5 years. Well, now, there are new antioxidants on the market, and listen, scientists say they are 20 times more powerful than vitamin C and 50 times the power of vitamin E, another antioxidant. They're called pycnogenols, the super antioxidants. You want to remember that if you're a health-conscious individual. Why? Well, according to Richard Passwater, Ph.D. and authority in the field, you're being bombarded by something called free radicals, toxins, environmental and otherwise, that break down cells, damage tissue, cause you to age faster, develop stiff joints, and wrinkle sooner than you ought to. How can you fight these free radicals that bombard you every day? Antioxidants and pycnogenols are the most effective antioxidant you can buy today. To order this amazing new food supplement I'm taking, call the folks at Health Naturally at 1-800-856-1119. These pycnogenols are pharmaceutical grade, made from 95% pure grapeseed extract. It's the very purest on the market, giving you the most benefits. Call 1-800-856-1119. That's 1-800-856-1119. We all know information is what it's all about, and if you want to be plugged into the latest, hottest hard data on UFOs, boy, have I got something for you. Please get a pen and paper. It's called UFO News World Report, and it's just brimming with the kind of info you've been looking for. UFO News searches the world to objectively cover the alien spectrum from sightings to encounters to alleged abductions and government cover-ups. Packs it all into a concise newsletter for just $24.95 a year. UFO News covers the world for you. Formatted and written by seasoned journalists, you'll have monthly access to all this hard-hitting information and more. Now you can be current in this tantalizing and elusive field of UFO phenomena. Find out what's happening. Call 1-800-830-9830. That's 1-800-830-9830, 24 hours a day. Or send a check for $24.95 to Box 2757, Anaheim, California, 92814. It's guaranteed you'll love it or your money back. Call 1-800-830-9830. Well, okay. Not a lot of time left. Frank, you have been so damn good that I'm liable to try to invite you into a session on something called Coast to Coast AM, which I do during the week.
I'd be honored to be on.
You would, huh? Well, that means that you have to stay. Where is it you are again? I'm sorry.
Okay, I am in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minnesota. So, Frank, were I to do that, you would be up very, very late
Well, I'm used to that. I'm a night crawler by nature.
You're a night crawler. Well, we crawl in the night, I'll tell you that. All right. Very good. I want also to give you another opportunity to plug your book, so plug
Thank
it.
you.
Right.
Well, if anybody is interested in either Atlantis in Wisconsin or the Lost Pyramids of Rock Lake, these are 2 volumes discussing the same things we've been talking about here. They can order them from Galdi Press. Here's the number. It's 1-800-777-3454. You get a free catalog, and anybody calling in from this show gets a $2 discount if they buy the 2 as a set.
That's an awfully good deal. Give the number one more time.
Okay, the number is 1-800-777-3454, and it's 24 hours a day.
All right. East of the Rockies, you are on the air with Frank Joseph. Where are you, please?
Mark from Collinsville. Does that count?
Collinsville, Illinois.
Yes, Art, what was your source on the Hillbop breakaway?
I'm sorry. It would take me a few minutes to dig it up. It's the London. I believe it's the London Observatory. I read it on the show. If you're going to get a repeat of my co-show tonight at beginning in about an hour after this, I'll dig it out. I'll have it for you tomorrow night. But I did read it on the co-show, so listen for that.
Okay, Mr. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
I assume you are familiar with the Research of Zechariah section and the 6 books that he has written?
Yes, sir, I am. I've read them all.
But you're not familiar with Neberuth?
I don't recall that offhand. It's been some time since I've read his books. I have this terrible habit of sort of sorting out those things that I can't use at the moment, and so it's the type of books that I have to go back and
Well, then let's let him help us both out. I don't know what it is either. Is that the 12th planet?
Well, I know that is a mythological term which Sitchin uses to define, a planet.
No, I'm asking the caller, Frank. Is that...
sorry.
Yes, sir. It is the 12th planet.
Let me considering that the Sumerians were supposedly the cradle of civilization, could you connect this Atlantean race to the ancient Anunnaki that the Sumerians referred to?
Yes, I think so. The Sumerians also have the deluge myth. You can find it in the Gilgamesh epic, where they talk about Utnashpatim, who came from this island that was sinking, and was one of the survivors of this flood. I think the Sumerians were definitely people who grew up through contacts between the Atlanteans as they arrived in Mesopotamia. They intermarried with the natives and produced the Sumerians. The same thing happened in America. The same thing happened in the Nile Valley. So when we see these civilizations, they are basically similar. They have similar stories, but there are tremendous differences. And I think that's because you have this large-scale intermixing going on.
All right, Frank, we're out of time. It has been an absolute pleasure. I mean, really a pleasure having you on. You're full of information, obviously much more than we could get to in this relatively short amount of time. And so we're going to invite you on Coast to Coast AM, and I'll be getting back to you on that. In the meantime, I hope you sell a zillion of your books.
Well, thank you very much, Art. I am very grateful for the opportunity to get on, and I consider it really an honor to being on a show which has such a wonderful following and very intelligent questions tonight. It was a great pleasure for me.
They are good people. They're a bright audience. Frank, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Take care. That's Frank Joseph, author of Atlantis in Wisconsin and much more. And he was very, to put it lightly, electrifying. So we'll have him back. All right, a couple of final trailing thoughts. One of them is the Sea Crane Company catalog drive. This is my last live opportunity to tell you. It's now or never. The catalog drive ends tomorrow morning as the weekend ends. So it's now or never. You want Sea Crane Company catalog? You call now and keep calling till you get through at 1-800-522-8863. 1-800-522-8863. The other item is, if you want a copy of tonight's incredible program, we have one waiting for you right now. Simply call 1-800-917-4278. Or to get a copy of Friday night, Saturday morning show, same number. Or for our newsletter, same number, 1-800-917-4278. Thank you all. As usual, from America's Great Southwest and the high deserts, near Dreamland, I'm Art Bell. Good night.
This has been Dreamland, a program dedicated to an examination of areas in the human experience not easily nor neatly put in a box. Things seen at the edge of vision, awakening a part of the mind as yet not mapped, yet things every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. Please join us again next week at this time for Dreamland.
Part bell is recorded for rebroadcast at this time. Please do not call.
Welcome to Dreamland, a program dedicated to an examination of areas in the human experience not easily nor neatly put in a box. Things seen at the edge of vision, awakening a part of the mind as yet not mapped, and yet things every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. This is Dreamland. Sunday night on the high desert, Dreamland on the air again. Hi, everybody. I'm Art Bell. This is going to be an intriguing program. Listening. Linda Howe, as usual, something about Bigfoot, I think. Remember that horrendous scream? Maybe she's got it one more time. We'll find out. After airing that scream, we've been getting a lot of response, shall we say. People who have heard similar horrendous things. So that'll be Linda Howe coming up in a moment. And then Joanne Parks, the owner of the ancient Texas crystal skull. Max, the crystal skull, along with Star Johnson Moser, who's going to, in some way, back her up. We're going to find out. I think Star's done a lot of work with the skull. Now, Joanne is in Texas, and Star is in Missouri. So all of that is just ahead on Dreamland. And as I listened to the open, I thought, I was hearing phrases of my own like, the air we breathe, and things that can be put in a box, and things that can't. I thought, Alpine, that's the air we breathe, and it comes in air. Of course, we will find the world's expert on crop circles and animal mutilations, and has branched out really into other areas of UFO-related phenomena. Linda Moulton Howe. Linda, welcome to the program.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
Well, you know, those recordings of that alleged Bigfoot scream near Snohomish, Washington, that I played again last weekend, were heard by another Dreamland listener who lives in central Utah. She said that she could not believe that in the week after hearing the alleged Bigfoot screams on Dreamland, she heard the same kind of sound near her Utah mountain home. She has asked to remain anonymous, but allowed me to record an interview with her about the sounds in an area of central Utah where friends of hers also encountered a Bigfoot-like creature in 1992.
All right.
I will call her Mrs. Smith, and here now are excerpts from this week's interview.
All right. Mrs. Smith.
I listened to your recording, and I just thought, well, that's interesting. I've heard that before on the tape, okay, that I had a friend given to me years ago, and I thought no more of it. Then we went to our property, and we were just working around there, and that evening we went to bed, and it was about 11 o'clock, and we heard this sound, and I thought I recognized it, but then I paid no attention to it, and we just went about our business. And I went to bed, and this creature, whatever it is, squealed all night long into the morning. And so then morning came, and I told my husband, asked him if he had heard the sound, and he said, yes, and it went all night. And I said, well, that was Bigfoot, wasn't it?
In that same central Utah area 3 years ago, a family of 5 that she knows had a face-to-face encounter with a Bigfoot-looking creature while deer hunting. The family doesn't want to be interviewed either for radio, but Mrs. Smith remembers what happened.
Well, they saw this big bucket. It was just frozen, like it was suspended. And I told them that I have just understood that when Bigfoot comes around, that the animals just freeze. And she said that's how they perceived everything around there, like everything was in a frozen state. And so she shot the buck, and she and her husband and her children got out, and they proceeded to gut the buck. And then they felt like something was staring at them. And so they turned and looked, and here they got this great big huge bear was hunched over, and it stood up, and it was a Bigfoot. It was about 100 to 200 feet from them, and he was staring right at them, and she said, arms dangled way down past the knees, and when he turned to look at each of the family members, he turned from his waist, his upper torso turned. And they described how it looked, how it had the hair on the face, how the eyes had hair except for, you know, where the pupils and things are. And then that was it. But they just said it was about 8 feet tall or taller. And that was about it. And they said it had between a dark and a brown hair. And then he turned and went up the mountainside. And they just stood there frozen. And they just couldn't believe what they had seen. And then finally they collected their faculties together, and the girl went over and looked at the footprints because it had just snowed, and she just said they were enormous. And I said, oh my God, why didn't you take a picture or something? Instead, they came down into the camp, and when they came into the camp, they told their friends about it, and of course the friends didn't believe them. And then they went back the next day, and there was a deer there, and she thought it was very unusual because the rectum of the deer had been cored out.
Now, Art, historically, Bigfoot has been associated with animal mutilations in which rectums have been poured out as well as other excisions since going back to at least the early 1970s. And in one famous case near Elizabeth, Colorado, east of Colorado Springs, a rancher watched a huge, hairy Bigfoot creature run from the pasture and knock down a section of fence around his ranch house. This was investigated by several scientists, and it was reported to the sheriffs there. I talked with the sheriff and deputy when I was working on my documentary, A Strange Harvest, about this incident where this big, huge, they estimated about 8 foot tall, hairy creature had literally run into the fence, knocking it down, and the big creature ran across the yard. And not far from there, at that same time period, 2 cows had been found dead with their rectums cored out and other typical excisions of tissue associated with unusual animal deaths, raising, again, that issue, is there some connection between these creatures and maybe some of the mutilations?
Sure.
And in one of the strangest Bigfoot cases on record, the Cascade County Sheriff's Office in Great Falls, Montana, had a 1976 file on a rancher who was out hunting and encountered a creature at least 8 feet tall with reddish-brown hair, and in this case, the eyes were reported to be glowing red. The rancher shot at this Bigfoot creature, and it disappeared in a flash of light, and that sentence was officially recorded in the Cascade County Sheriff's file.
Wow.
Yeah, what is it that could disappear in a flash of light? And at the same time, the Cascade County Sheriff's Office was flooded with animal mutilation reports and eyewitnesses who were saying and reporting moving lights and discs above pastures and above their homes.
Linda, there is a name for the kind of creature that's able to take any form, isn't there?
Well, from a shamanic tradition, yes, there would be what they would call the shapeshifters.
Yes, indeed. That's exactly what I was after. Thank you. Shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Is it possible that it could be that kind of creature?
Well, you know, we are in such unexplored, unknown territory. I suppose anything is possible, but I personally am intrigued by the idea that there is some connection between these creatures that have been linked in several states, even including South Dakota. Big moving lights and these strange big hairy creatures on the ground also associated with mutilations. It's possible that they may have a technological link to what we refer to as the disc craft, or someone else has postulated the possibility that we could be dealing even in some of these cases with very sophisticated holograms that somehow have been engineered to do work on this planet and that in actuality are not strictly biological and have this escape mechanism of going back into some kind of an electronic form if threatened in some way. All that sounds like science fiction and highly speculative, but the rancher went far enough to call the Cascade County Sheriff's Office and report that he had shot with his .30-06 rifle right at this huge creature in front of him, and that it disappeared in a flash of light.
I don't suppose you still have that sound, do you?
Yeah, I do, and if you guys would like to hear it one more time.
One more time. I'm telling you, folks, get out your recorder quickly, hit record. You've never heard a sound like this, and if you ever do, you'll be running. I sure would be. So, one more time.
here we go, and as you listen to it, just ponder this question, but it remains the same. Could these sounds and these Bigfoot creatures be part of the UFO phenomena? Here we are.
Now listen closely. It's coming up here in just a moment, I'm sure. This was a creature reported. Now listen carefully. It won't play.
Just a second.
No, we're with you. You may not. Oh my God. Oh, Linda, there's something about that one. I don't know what it is. It just sends a shiver right up my back.
Yep, and everyone who's ever heard it knows that they're hearing something that is distinctly not a cat, not a wolf, not a coyote.
No, and I might have even imagined it had glowing red eyes. I'd be gone. Listen, Linda, I want to give you a little news on the Roswell front.
Right.
On my syndicated weekly program, interviewed Ray Santilli from London.
Great.
Spent about 30 minutes with him, and I was sort of impressed with the guy because he unabashedly will say he's coming at this from a commercial point of view. He's not a ufologist. He's a guy who's working on a film about Elvis Presley, for heaven's sake. Ran into the film, and I found, his easy admission of all that to be credible. I don't blame him. That's not saying that the photos are real, but then he gave me permission, Linda, to publish those 5 photographs in my newsletter.
Right, that George Wingfield and I talked with our Dreamland audience about from Seattle.
I've done a little enhancement work on those photographs, and I'll tell you, Linda, I'm not a ufologist. To me, it's very strange and eerie that this creature is sort of human, but not quite human.
Right. I think everybody has had that reaction. I think one person said, well, this is sort of what I always thought an alien would look like.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I did.
That's right. You did, but somebody else said that to me also.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, look, a wonderful report as always. Do you know anything about crystal skulls? This is new territory for me. I've got no idea what I'm about to be talking about, Linda. What do you know about a crystal skull?
Yeah. There have been at least 2, if not more, that have surfaced in this century. The most famous was, I think it was taken from a dig in Guatemala.
That's where this one we're going to be talking about came from.
And it is perfectly machined. I believe that one even has moving teeth in the skull. And the big question has been, could this be a modern 20th century creation to be planted to cause a big hoax? That was what some people argued. However, others who were associated with that dig and that find insist that where the skull was found was associated with artifacts and layers that simply defied the 20th century explanation. And then, if it is prior to the industrialized age, how could anyone in past centuries have taken one solid piece of quartz crystal and carved it with the fineness of its skull, which you probably have a photo of.
I do.
And do so that even the teeth, as I understand it, could move. I have never held this in my hands. I have talked with people who have, and they say that there is something eerie about its perfection.
Yes. All right. Linda, next week again from Philadelphia.
Yes, I'll be back here.
A great report. And do you want to give out any information quickly?
Well, I'm always looking for reports on Bigfoot, mutilations, abductions, crop circles, all of the unusual unexplained phenomena, and I would love to hear from people at my fax number, area code 215-491-9842, or please write to me at Post Office Box 538 in Huntingdon Valley, Pennsylvania, zip code 19006. I always keep confidences, and I only share the names of people who give me permission, and the big value is getting reports and getting the information.
Linda, thank you. Talk to you next week.
Okay, Art.
Linda Moulton Howe, pretty generally acknowledged to be the world's expert on crop circles and animal mutilations. Many of you have no idea there is a Senate bill right now, really an existing, introduced Senate bill that will establish a new money, colored money, different colored, multicolored money, ugly no doubt. But that's not the big news. The big news is we get a two-tiered money system. That means one currency used inside the country, another one outside. Now, my sponsor, North American Trading, will send you a copy of this Senate bill free of charge. Now, why would they want to do that? Well, the answer is really a good marketing ploy. They sell gold, and believe me, after you've read this bill and you know what's coming, you'll be interested, and they know that. So it's easy. Call them. They'll send it to you free of charge. The number is 1-800-877-9799. That's 1-800-877-9799. North American Trading. And try and make use of the last couple of moments before the bottom of the hour to go to Joanne and Star. We'll do that out of the bottom of the hour fresh. I've got some information you need. I just talked a moment ago to Linda Moulton Howe about the Santilli pictures, which are going to be published in our newsletter. These are 5 separate photographs of what purports to be an alien creature being autopsied, and there's been a great deal of talk about it. I've interviewed Mr. Santilli. We have enhanced versions of these photographs available as of about an hour ago on our bulletin board system. I repeat, enhanced copies of these photographs available on our bulletin board system. In addition, they will be published in our newsletter. So there are 2 ways to get them. To call our bulletin board is area code 702-727-1709. You've got to have a computer and a modem, and you can download the photographs free of charge at area code 702-727-1709. We well understand most of you don't have a computer. So in the next issue of our newsletter, we're publishing all 5 photographs by special permission from Ray Santilli in London. If you want the newsletter, it is $29.95 a year. As long as you order now, you'll get the issue with the photos. Have I said enough? To get the newsletter, the number is 1-800-917-4278. That's 1-800-917-4278. Or send a check or money order for $29.95 to newsletter, 744 East Pine Street, P-I-N-E, Central Point, Oregon, zip code 97502. Newsletter, 744 East Pine, Central Point, Oregon, 97502. Max, the Crystal Skull, is next.
This hour of Art Bell was recorded for rebroadcast at this time. Please do not call.
From the Kingdom of Nye, we continue with your calls on Greenland with Art Bell. Call Art now toll-free at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-TALK. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Or the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. 727-1295 in the 702 area code. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Now again, here I am, and into the land of crystal skulls in just a moment. Should be an interesting one. Mrs. Edwards just... If she's the female, she's going to love flowers. Joanne, you were going to tell us, we got a couple of minutes here. The scientists, what have they found out?
Sure. Clyde C. Snow, who's a forensic anthropologist, and Max was in the state coroner's office here in Oklahoma City, they have studied it. Betty Pat Gatman, who pioneered putting faces on skulls, she has studied it, and they said whatever carved this had such a high technology of just what the human skull was that it's just almost impossible to duplicate. This one's 18 pounds and 2 ounces, and it's anatomically correct from one side to the next. It's carved with 28 teeth with wisdom teeth carved in.
Wow.
And it's got the pineal, what they call the pineal gland. Beneath it, it's the only altar skull, meaning that there's an altar indention beneath it. And what that is, it's got the mastoid bone that it sits back on, and that altar indention is the medulla oblongata that connects our neck to our spinal cord. So everything that we possess in our skull, Max possesses in his, and it's all in the right spot. Plus, it also has major inclusions that goes down the cheek line, and these inclusions are so great that they come up through the surface. Where the surface is slightly cracked open, you can put your fingernail inside of some of these cracks. So this is not considered really the type nor quality of a quartz crystal that a crystal carver would use or could use to carve into with diamond tip tools. They would pass over any number of these major inclusions, and it's going to instantly shatter.
Well, they wouldn't have had diamond tip tools back then
No, they
anyway,
didn't.
right?
And that's two reasons why that what they know is they realize that the Mayans used them in their ceremony. But again, they're not believed to be created by the Mayans for those two reasons, because they did not possess diamond tip tools that we know of, and there's no crystal mines in any Mayan site.
You want to say something, Star?
Well, there's so much to say.
All right. Well, then, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll hold it for when we come out of the top of the hour here. But let's put it this way, Star. You've worked with Max very closely.
Yes.
And I've got two literate ladies here. So, Star, I'm going to just ask you, in your opinion, is Max the real thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I've been learning from Max, I can scarcely find the words to describe that. I will say that my entire life has been totally changed since Max came into my life.
That's a pretty serious statement, huh?
Yes, it is. You should see the letters I get where Max appears to people in dreams and what he's done for all of these people.
Well, I once saw a movie about a healer, and it was a wonderful movie, actually, and I can't recall the name of it right now, but everybody in the community, once they figured out that she could heal, demanded to know where the power came from. And if it didn't come from God, they said, then she must be a witch, and they damn near burned her at the stake. So you two potentials, hold on there just a moment. We'll come right back to you. This is Greenland. Is a really ancient crystal skull with powers, and we're going to find out about all that in just a moment. Back now to Joanne Parks in Houston, I believe, and Star Johnson. Star, where are you?
I'm in St. Joseph, Missouri.
St. Joseph, Missouri.
Yeah.
All right. Again, recalling the movie I was talking about, I don't remember the name of it, but it starred Ellen Burstyn. I think it's Burstyn. And she was able to heal.
Oh, I remember that.
Do you? It was actually a beautiful movie.
Yes, wonderful movie.
However, as you recall, and that's what people are going to want to know here, where this power comes from. And if it doesn't come from God, then look out.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because I've written several articles for magazines, and I do believe that Max, I believe that all good things come from God. So I do believe that Max is a gift from God. So I feel that God has given us many gifts and tools in many forms, such as our preachers, our Bibles, our books, to help us all along our own spiritual path of truth. And I believe that Max is simply one of those gifts and tools given to help us along for those who wish to open their heart and mind and receive.
Do you concur with that stuff?
I absolutely do. And I would like to share with you, if I might, a channeling that I received through Max that states very clearly why Max has come to us.
All right.
And this is what I received. I come to you openly in mind and in heart. I come to you through the corridors of time. I come to restore your gifts, long forgotten. I come in remembering, and I come in truth. I come in oneness, and I come in gladness. I come with the blessings of infinite love. O turn not away in fear or limitation. O turn not away in disdain or despair. I come with the flame of freedom, everlasting. Let us soar through illusion to the heart of the dove. I hold the secrets, the keys to the mysteries. I hold the pattern, and I hold the plan. I hold open the doorways to illumine the chambers. Open your heart and let me come in. Open your mind and enter the doorway. Cast off all entanglements of time. Open your body to the light of the heavens. Open your pathways to the light of the stars. Open your gifts to share with each other. Open your senses to the sound and the light. Open your being to the unified presence. Reach out to each other. Divine reflection. Divine love.
Well, that sounds like a very beautiful, elongated version of Rodney King's Can't We All Get Along?
That should be it.
Is that about right?
Well, we share. I get letters from all over the world. People come here from all over the world because they feel that Max has something to offer them. They have said that they feel a healing sensation from him. They stress serenity. They even say they have peace of mind and very loving thought.
Does everybody get along with Max?
Everybody that I come in contact gets along with Max. There have been a few people who have shrugged and left because they have fear. They have limitations. They have stuff inside of them that they just can't handle because of the skull. Now, this is bad connotations on the skull. Let's just say it's only been within, say, the last several hundred years that the skull has been used, let's say, as a symbol of evil. And why? Well, it's brought on by pirates, modern man, it's a conditioning effect. Such, as using the mark on the bottle of toxic poison.
Yes. Oh, it
but
is.
if you read and go back, very back in history, the skull was used as a keeper of knowledge. They have the wall of skull, and I believe, why a skull? People say, why a skull? Well, I believe it looks like us because it represents us. It represents mankind. It's something that we can communicate with because it looks like us.
With the dated age, this skull could not, there was no technology at that time, was there?
Not at all. They have no, this is a mystery like Stonehenge and the Sphinx and the ancient pyramids. They do not know how these skulls are created. They're also cut against their natural axis. They're cut against their grain. So scientifically, it doesn't exist.
That's odd. All right, I've got a question by fax, and we'll get to the phone shortly. Dear Art, would you ask your guest if the crystal skull that she describes is similar in appearance to the one shown at the beginning of the TV series Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World?
That one that skull is the one in the British Museum.
It is?
Yes. Max is not clear like that. Max shows that he's gone through many, many earth changes. What happens is, and what causes these earth changes and these cracks is that over eons and eons of time, the rock that Max was carved from, it looks like it appears that it's gone through about, maybe 5 or 6 major earth changes like volcano eruptions, heat, and it cracked open, forming these major inclusions and leaving these different earth changes looks in it where there's parts cloudy and parts are clear. And then it would take literally hundreds of thousands of years for each one of these inclusions to repair itself. And whatever it carved right through the inclusions.
Oh, boy, that is strange.
So those are clear. And this is what got the scientists so intrigued, not because of Max's clearness and lack of inclusions, it's because of these inclusions that's got them so completely baffled as to how he was created.
Well, so people come to you in wheelchairs, people come to you with various ailments, and what do you do? How do you handle it?
I let Max do his own work. I tell people.
Do you charge people for this?
I do not charge people. If they want to leave me a donation, also I have videos, I have documentaries on the skulls, I have books, I have little skulls to stay with Max to pick up his energy. If they want to buy something, that's fine. But no, I don't charge people to come here. I tell people that Max is a personal experience, and that's what he is. He's helped many, many people in various different ways. I can never predict. It's just like going to Lourdes and getting to the water. What's going to happen? So you just don't know. Max is a very, very personal experience, and he's helped many, many people in many ways. But all of them, every one of them, is a personal experience. I have many people come here that are just not sick. They just know that Max is a calling. He opens up the key to the mind, letting some unseen energy force. but it just needed a little push. He seems to answer questions for people that, for some reason, those questions wouldn't come before. Now, these are some of those explainable things. I don't even begin to understand Max because of how people relate to him. It's astonishing.
So are you going to continue along the same path? I mean, you tour with Max?
Well, for the first 5 years, before we always called Max again the Closet Skull, since we didn't know what it was, I didn't know particularly really what I had. It was a learning process, and I had to learn completely about what Max is, what he does. He seems to guide me through dreams. He does say he wants to be with the people. He loves people. He wants to help people. And I didn't go anywhere for the first 5 years. People came to me, and I went out a couple of times a year. But just in the last year, I've had so many people calling and asking me, please bring Max to our organization, our UFO show, our bookstore, our museum, that I started going out with him 2 or 3 times a month.
All right. Has Max been, he probably has bad dreams if Max has dreams about closets. I mean, have you elevated him out of the closet?
Oh, yes, absolutely. He's out of the closet in everybody's heart, and that's what he's going to say.
All right. I would like to begin opening a couple of lines and taking a couple of questions. I am not exactly what you would call an expert in skulls, so I don't even know the right questions.
I'm not an expert either, but I'm just going to tell you what I believe.
All right, good enough for the both of you then. Let's see what we've got here. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star.
Yeah, glad to talk to you. I'm very interested in the healing aspect. How serious is, cancer and that has it healed, as far as maybe TB, has it healed TB? Okay. What serious diseases have it healed?
When I was working with the healer.
Just a sec. Where are you calling?
From K-Ram, St. Louis.
St. Louis, all right.
Okay. When I was working with the healer, all types of people come from all over the world. We worked with cancer people. He worked with my own child. They gave her 3 months to live. She had osteogenic sarcoma, and she was 12 years old and had her left leg amputated to the left hip. And it was only 1,500 children live in the United States. The healer worked with her. She touched the skull. They did keep her going, and the tumors completely remissioned from her lungs, and she lived for over 3 more years very well. However, the healer, when he got sick and he could no longer do his healing work, she became sick again and passed away when she was just 16 years old. They've healed all kind of things there. But I never know what's going to be healed. It's just people. It's almost like the healing comes from within the person. The power of the skull is the healing is within the person who holds the belief system.
May I say something because I do spiritual healing with Max?
Yes.
That what I feel is that Max is programmed with the wisdom of the ancients through sound and light, and that he holds the divine order in there. And so when we can connect the person's energy fields back into the divine pattern, into the divine balance and the divine order, so that the person's energy works balanced and correctly, that then the body has what it needs, has the power of the light to be able to overcome disease.
Okay, these are the things that I hear people who do acupuncture, I hear people who do chiropractic, I hear people who do all these sorts of things say roughly the same things, that it puts you back in line or puts you in line with some greater force. Are these all similar things?
Yes,
they are. That I worked with did work, the Red Hat, the Lama, they did work through the meridian or acupuncture points of the patient's body.
I work through what is called the axiotonal grid system, which is that invisible network of light, the pathways of light that connect all of the subtle bodies, from the without to the within, and from the above to the below.
All right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Hi.
Hi.
Where are you?
In Medford, Oregon.
Oh, Medford, Oregon, all right.
Yes. The question I have is that as far as the scientific measurements of the skull and all that,
right?
The question is that what scientific proof do you have on the power of the skull?
Well, here's what I think. I go by all the letters that I get and by the people, what people tell me what goes on. I cannot prove that Max does what people say he does. I believe it. Just like I cannot prove that I have a soul, but I believe it.
Well, all right.
Max does exactly what people says he does.
Okay, Joanne, let's try it from this point of view. You say there have been healings. These are people who no doubt are ill, and they've been to the doctor. They've had x-rays, they've had every manner of test, and so that's pretty well documented. They're sick one way or the other.
Yes, and what they do, they tell me that they receive a healing, but they never send me any documentation proof of it. They just said, Max has done this for me, Max has helped me this, and then, of course, a lot of people, I do believe that Max is here for mankind's spiritual growth, so for some reason he seems to touch their hearts and heal them in some spiritual way.
Right, but it would be nice to have a little documentation.
Right. I've had lots of people tell me in letters they've been healed for serious things. So one person walked in and said she hadn't heard in 3 weeks, and her ear popped open the minute she got Max's energy field, because he gives off energy in a 2.5 block radius.
Now, see, that's interesting. Going back to this movie I was talking about, I recall that when Ellen Burstyn would put her hand on somebody, there would be an actual exchange of heat, a feeling of heat.
That's what they feel off of Max. People who are tuned to the crystal feel this big heat that comes off of him. I don't even try to explain it. I'm telling you that I don't know why these things happen, but it just seems to happen. Are we all nuts? Are we all seeing the same thing?
Well, what about it? You two, have you both been checked out?
Well, yes, you know what? I get a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists here, and I used to wonder, well, are they checking me out? Are they checking Max out? And they all just say, no, you're right, and they're right on cue, and they love Max too.
Huh.
Absolutely.
What about you, Star? Have you had moments of when you wondered about yourself?
Well, certainly, because when you're dealing with the unseen forces and the supernatural, what we call supernatural occurrences, of course you're going to wonder about what is real.
Yes.
But what has been just incredible in this journey has been meeting other people who are sharing the same kinds of experiences.
Oh, exactly.
All right, you two, hold it right there. Max, the Crystal Skull is our subject. If you want to get in, we'll give you the numbers in a moment. Joanne and Star, are you both there?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, question by fax from Honolulu, Hawaii. Are all skulls made of clear quartz, or are skulls made of, I think it says, fluorite or amethyst or other crystals?
I know of the ones that are made from the clear quartz, like Max. And then there's an amethyst skull in a private collection in San Jose, California, one in San Jose, Mexico. These are in private collections. They're small, and they're made of rose quartz. I think that Max also goes to the Native American Indian ceremony. And one of the indigenous elders there said they had one that was black quartz, a black skull. And these people, the Native Americans, also talk about the skulls in time. He goes to the sweat lodge, the medicine wheel, the sacred pipes. And indigenous elders from all over the world have talked about the skull. They say they come from the Star people.
All right, the Star people. Interesting. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Where are you calling from, please? Whoops. Let's try this again. Are you there? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Where are you?
This Dark Bell show? Or?
Yes, it is Dreamland, sir.
So I was wondering, what do you think about these people in Chicago that sit in a room and are scared to open a window or a door? They die in there because they figure somebody would rob them.
Well, that is not the subject of the discussion this evening. Those are people with a very special disease. And maybe Max would help people like that. I don't know. They're literally, I can't recall the name of it, but they've got to remain in the house. They're afraid to go out of the house. Does Max help with that kind of thing?
Max can help, like I said. He's a personal experience. When people come before him, they have to just make their request, and whatever happens, happens. I've seen all kinds of things happen. In fact, he will change colors. I've had him on display at the Whole Life Expos, and he'll start turning pink.
I've heard that, and there are people who have seen things like UFOs in Max, too, aren't there?
Yes. It's felt like many people. I've had psychics from all over the world.
So it's Max is kind of a conduit for almost everything. All right.
Exactly. They feel that the rock before it was carved, it picked up images and vibrations and sound occurring around it.
All right, hold it right there. Hold it right there. We've got a break. We'll be right back.
From Phoenix?
Phoenix, yes, sir.
I was just curious if either one of the ladies tried to find, besides get answers in regards to some of the things that, future things that might happen. We know what we're talking about.
All right. Yeah, sure. I can even amplify on that one. Ladies, I have a good friend whose name is Gordon Michael Scallion.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of you know the name?
I know the name.
You both do. All right. Gordon Michael Scallion has made some incredible predictions. Has Max given anybody the ability to, or has Max caused anybody to look into the future? And if so, what has been told?
To me, no, I don't believe that Max, for myself, is used as like a crystal ball. I do believe he's mainly for his personal spiritual side and their heart and their body and their mind and soul. Now, several people have said that Max has said that we have to clean up our acts, that he's here for a definite purpose to help mankind and to help him to move along their own path. But, Star might can answer a little bit, elaborate on that some.
Well, what Max has shown me is that which we are moving towards.
Oh, so in other words, Max has shown you what?
Yes, many people, he has shown many people things.
All right, Star. Having said all the nice words about what Max would like us to do, if we don't, what does Max predict?
I don't look at any negativity or fear when I look into Max. I only look at the love and the increase in our awareness and consciousness and oneness. That is the level that I tap into Max for.
Max has shown you, you said, the future.
That which we're moving towards, yes, in our path back home. What I believe is that we are ascending, that we are going back from whence we came. And Max has given me glimpses of the mansion worlds.
I'm sorry, the mansion world?
The mansion worlds.
What about?
Yes, of the higher multidimensional levels that are the promise, the kingdom of heaven. These are the kinds of things that I've seen. And
as described, for example, by Robert Monroe, that sort of ascension?
Yes. Yes, I believe that it's like moving up on a pyramid and coming into greater and greater levels of oneness.
Most people who look ahead see many possible futures, not all of them necessarily pleasant. You either avoid hearing or listening or thinking about that, or...
Well, if a lot of people like to focus on fear and earth changes, and the earth is always changing. I mean, I was in California during all the fires. I was in the Midwest during all the floods. I've been in California during earthquakes, And undoubtedly, there is a shifting of form that is happening, a purification and a cleansing. And we can choose to look at all of these changes, which have always been and always will be, with fear, or we can, look at them with more open eyes.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out, I understand that you're trying to remain positive.
Oh, yes.
And I commend you for that. But, again, so many people, intuitives, say that we're headed down a very terrible path, and that it does not have to be the future, and that the future is dependent on our behavior.
Exactly. Yes, if we focus on love and oneness, then that's what we are creating as co-creators.
I appreciate. Okay, I appreciate.
That's what I believe. That if we focus on negativity and fear, and that's what we're going to create.
I'm with you.
Our things.
Yes, Star. But a pragmatic, cold view of what's going on around us right now, societally, economically, politically, or you name it, it's a mess. And arguably getting messier. Earthquake activity, strange weather, all the rest of it seems to be intensifying. If the future is nothing but a bunch of multi-dimensional mansions and all looks cool, then why are we in this mess?
I believe that the lid is being blown off, all of the denial and all of that which has been held inside and stuffed and not looked at for generations and generations, and that all of that is coming out now, that it can be healed.
Fascinating. All right.
That's what I believe.
Stay right there. We'll be right back to you. Lines are open, and we'll be back to you all. Here's go. All right. A lot of people are obviously taking this very seriously. Here's a fax from Anchorage. Art, in April of '86, I had the opportunity to spend some time with the crystal skull in the Museum of Mankind in London. I had known of these skulls since the early 1970s, but had very little information about them. I'm a sensitive. The only information given on the skull was that it came from Mexico. It immediately drew me to it. There was a tremendous power about it. Looking into the eye socket seemed to sort of pull you into it. There was an energy consciousness imbued in it. Is that what you generally hear, Joanne?
Exactly. I hear these same stories over and over again. Exactly.
I guess I was trying, and I'll try one more time, to delineate between sort of a psychic, in other words, I'm trying to find out whether there's the real power in Max, which you both seem to be insisting there is, or whether it's people believing in Max. I mean, I've understood the whole basis of voodoo was that you could be hurt even by somebody if you believed they could hurt you.
Exactly.
Conversely, you can be helped by somebody if you believe they can help you.
Right. That's what I think it is. I believe the power is within the person who holds the belief system. And for me, that's not for other people. That's just for me speaking.
But see, that's taking away from the argument that there is a real and separate power within Max. Or is it
There still might be. There certainly could be. But this is what we call differences of opinion.
Well, that's true. On the west of the Rockies line, on the air with Joanne and Star. Hello there. No, you're not. On the first-time caller line, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello?
Is this right, Bill?
Yes.
Oh, let me turn the radio down.
All right, do it quickly. We've only got about a minute here. Do you have a quick question, sir?
Yeah, his name is Jim. I'm calling from Reno.
Okay, Jim.
I used to live in San Francisco for a number of years, and I went to see a psychic in Pinole. His name was Nick Nocerino.
That's Nick.
Yes, okay.
Is this the same man
Yes, it
that Joanne Parks was speaking of?
Yes.
Oh, may I ask Joanne a question?
Yes.
Joanne, could you elucidate on whether this was the man, I think you said earlier, that this Max had instructed you to seek out?
Yes.
All right. And
you're correct.
you didn't expound on that. Could you tell a little more about him?
All right, sir. She can, but it's going to have to be after the break. Ladies, we're coming up to the break. Tight, relax for a few moments. One more hour with Joanne and Star and Max the Crystal Skull. There are only 13 ancient crystal skulls in the world. Joanne has one of them. We'll be back. Was it 2020 or 60 minutes? One of them went down there and exposed the Filipino healers. That's what I recall.
You can't say that about all the Filipino healers, and I will say that in the 5 years that I traveled with this healer, I saw some incredible miracles happen. Well, I just like to say that I find it very interesting, and I've read about the crystal skulls and all that, but I just have some really negative feelings about stars rolling the whole thing, that's all.
All right, that's fair enough. Star, what have you seen? Really lay it out. What have you seen a healer do? Have you seen a healer put a hand into a body?
I have seen manifestation, and Brother Angel never claimed to be putting his hand into the body. I've seen manifestation happen. And I've seen people who were crippled come into the room crippled.
You're speaking, Star, you're speaking over my head. You've seen manifestation.
Yes. I never saw a hand go inside the body.
So what is a manifestation?
Oh, I saw the manifestation of water turn into blood.
Well, that's pretty serious.
The healer that I worked with was not so much into the manifestation as he was into people believing in the power of God within themselves to heal themselves. And that was the focus of this healer. There are other healers who are into, big manifestation. This healer that I worked with was not that way. He worked on a spiritual level.
All right, good enough. The both of you hold on. We'll be right to you. This is Dreamland. We're talking about Max the Crystal Skull. Zero. Back now to Joanne and Star. And to a call somewhere east of the Rockies. You're on the air. Where are you calling from, please?
Oklahoma. I know the late Joe Pine from the Korean War. He exposed some of the people that were cutting the Band-Aids with their hands, and then they were pretending to pull chickens and turkeys out of people's fatty areas, and it was already there and stuff. This was a TV show that was on in the 60s.
I remember Joe Pine.
Yeah, well, he exposed it. It was called Tony the Phony, and it was in the Philippines. It was somebody who was supposed to be healing, but he wasn't really doing it. They were reaching in the fatty tissue of someone's stomach.
Yep.
Yeah, that was what it was.
Yeah, I remember, Star, you want to comment on that? I mean, they really have exposed some of that as fraud, and if there is some real stuff going on over there, I suppose its credibility has been damaged.
Yeah, it's too bad because the phonies ruin it for those that are real, and isn't it that way always?
And the public is very quick to dismiss. I mean, if a newscaster, at the end of a newscast, has a report about a UFO, and then he does a little chuckle at the end, everybody dismisses it. If there's one report on a fake healer in the Philippines, then all Philippine healers are fakes.
That's right, and that's not fair.
It seemed like the time I met him, I never saw any of that. I thought that mainly Brother Angel was just doing spiritual work.
He worked with the light. He worked with the light. And he was a very great healer, and I saw many wonderful things happen.
Star, I can't resist. Everybody's always talking about the light. A very good friend of mine is named John Lear. John Lear is the son of Bill Lear, who invented the Learjet, the 8-track, all the rest of that sort of thing. John Lear once told me that he was told, when you die, don't go to the light. The light is a trick. Go to the darkness. Nothing has ever bugged me as much, and Star, I thought I might throw that one at you. And
don't go to the light.
That's what he said.
Oh, I'm not going to the darkness.
You're not going to the darkness.
I'm going towards the light.
What? I'm still sort of feeling the same way myself. Very quickly, west of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star.
Yeah, this is Robert from Yuba City, California.
Hi, Robert.
Joanne.
Yes.
Yes. Are you within near presence of Max?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever, or are you able to set up a mental link between him and others?
All right.
I'm trying to contact.
I
need to speak with him.
I understand. This I can't resist. I'm going to hold it till after the break. All of you stand by, all right? Let me hear it all right.
Yes.
Yes, all right. Yes.
That's the way to do it. We'll be back. There is some power imbued in crystal, and
well, it has that energy.
I must admit, I would like to get next to Max myself for a little while. What of the people that approach Max, not the psychics, not the sensitives, but normal people, and you tell them this story, I'm sure, because it's sitting there in the Max box and everybody can see it, so they come over to the house. And what do they get out of it? Are there people who come over and say, oh.
Yes, they just sit there and they think nothing's going to happen. And then all of a sudden they approach it and they start touching it and they start feeling this energy field coming off of it. And then some people feel absolutely nothing and they write me weeks. It's a delayed reaction. They write me weeks and months later saying, well, I didn't think anything was going to happen, but all of a sudden it hit me like a bomb. He appeared to them and told them something. Sometimes they don't remember what it is, but I feel that Max is like calling in his loose fragments, if that makes any sense. That he's calling to people, and all of these people who come into contact with him and come into his presence, they're all little loose fragments around here that he's calling back into presence to tell them something, whether they remember it consciously or unconsciously. It's like the shepherd calling in a sheep. He's for some reason calling in these loose fragments.
I admit there is some sort of drawing, or you feel drawn. I've got an extremely good photograph, the one I'm going to put on the bulletin board or publish, and you feel it's the doggonest thing. You feel drawn to it. First
It's
time.
like he's got lost keys, and you were part of those keys, and he's finding keys to the puzzle.
Yeah, it's really weird. First time caller line, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Hi.
How you doing tonight?
All right.
I was curious if they've ever thought about having all the skulls pulled together in one spot to see what kind of power would come about.
Yes, in fact, that was one of Nick Nosferina's dreams, is to have all the skulls to come together at one time. However, the skulls don't want their million dollar artifacts out of the museum, and they won't cooperate. So Mitchell Hedges' skull and Max was the only skulls that have been together.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the air tonight.
Where are you?
Elma, Washington.
All right. Thank you very much. So, a meeting of the skulls.
A meeting of the minds.
We would love to see that happen.
What do you think would happen? Anybody want to guess?
It's no telling what would happen.
A lot of light.
A lot of energy, certainly a lot of, it would be like a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Better than 100 megahertz pentium, huh?
Probably.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Hello.
Oh, hello, Art.
Hello. Where are you?
You got pretty good here?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Where are you?
Oh, good. This is Edward from LaSalle, Illinois.
All right.
I find this really fascinating tonight. I wondered, there's a lot of question about Max's origin.
Yes.
Have you ever considered the fact that if you knew what face that matches the skull, whether it was a model or whether it was the original person or being who owns the skull, so to speak, if you knew what that face looked like?
You mean, was it a self-portrait?
Was it a self-portrait, or was it a portrait of an ideal type, of the type of person who, the craftsman that crafted the skull?
Or are the ancient skulls, the 13 of them in the world, not terrestrial in origin at all?
They're not, well, they're all believed to be terrestrial by some people, but they're all different in size and detail. There are no two alike.
That's also odd. Some of them have moving or even detachable mandibles.
That's the Mitchell Hedges skull in Canada. It was found in it was not found in Guatemala. It was found in British Honduras, which is believed now beneath a collapsed altar. And the jawbone was found 3 months later. It has the moving jaw. Most of the other ones do not have moving jaws. They're all in one piece.
Fascinating. First time caller line, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, where are you?
Oh, in Jacksonville, Louisiana.
All right. Well, you're on the air.
Wonderful. I'm calling tonight about the skull.
Yes.
And what I wanted to ask is, I was doing some research, and the question that Star had said that the skull had holds some secrets and that it had keys to the mysteries and open doors of chambers. And I did some research about Masons, and they're associated with skull and crossbones and Egyptology. And then Egyptology is associated with pyramids and chambers. So I was wondering if this skull had any relation to this type of thought.
All right.
Well, when we take photographs, research photographs of the skull, you can see various images in it. You can see pyramids, several pyramids under its nose that goes back inside. You can see something that looks like Bigfoot. You can see underwater scenes, inner earth scenes. You can see extraterrestrial that sits in its eye. You can see UFOs.
Matter of fact, in the photograph I've got here, you can see a couple of things. And maybe the more you stare, the more you see. I'm not sure.
Exactly.
But it is odd.
Yes, it will come in and out. It's like the rock has picked up sound, or like I said, an image and vibration occurring around it in time, and it's programmed it there. And for various people, they don't have to be into it. When they sit and touch the skull, it's like a flashback. They will pick up these images off of it.
Strange. All right.
One of the things that's really interesting, as I mentioned, I was just down in the Yucatan, and I noticed that Max's nose indenture is shaped exactly like the Mayan arches in the sacred sites.
Well, that is interesting.
That was really it was amazing when I realized that.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Joanne and Star. Hi.
Hi, my name's Marshall. I'm from Princeton, Minnesota. It's about 50 miles north of the Twin Cities.
Yes, sir.
I'll save my compliments to you for another call because you got a guest. I want to know if Max has any visions for the future about our future life and stuff like that.
Okay, we kind of covered that, sir. I appreciate your call. According to Star, only nothing but the good, right?
Well, what I've seen in Max is from whence we came, and that's the same place that we're going back to.
Yeah, but that's like saying dust to dust.
Mm-hmm. And light to light.
Well, all right, I don't know that I'm fully comfortable with that. Ladies, stay where you are. We'll be right back to you. Positive, higher dimensions, but, you know, somehow or another, that sounds like the end of this physical life. And I think that's what I'll ask when we come back, which will be in a moment. You don't have to put up with it. Well, I know a lot of you do, but you don't have to. What am I talking about? Hard, foul water. That's right. Hard water gets into everything, it fouls it up. You know what I mean?
We're going to continue to allow Max to be a joy and inspiration to many thousands of people to come.
Well, I find that you do not charge to be a credible thing. Both of you, Joanne, Star, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, good night. And you'll be hearing from people. With me, you're going to be hearing from people. All right, again, the Roswell photographs are due to appear in our newsletter. And I'm not exactly sure when the deadline is, so I'm telling you, get in now, get the newsletter now. It's just $29.95 a year. Max, we will try to get a GIF picture whisked together of Max. He is very odd, and we'll get that on the bulletin board and maybe in the newsletter. If you'd like to order the newsletter, the magic number to call right now, or 24 hours a day, you've got to get it done. If it's busy, please keep trying. It's 1-800-917-4278. 1-800-917-4278, or the bulletin board at area code 702-727-1709. Behalf of all at the network who make Dreamland possible, thank you, and from the high desert, night all.